Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial here on a special live stream with a very special guest. Um, Live stream that we're going to talk about the Back to the Future trilogy. Um, Today is November 5th, so it is a kind of special date for Back to the Future, and the reason why I picked this date to talk about one of my favorite movie franchises. As Doc basically invents time travel in November 5th, 1955. So that's the reason for that. And I'd like to introduce my guest is Mike. Did you see that? I want to say the best hair in YouTube, but then I met Mike's brother Joe, so I'm not sure if that's true anymore. It's kind of between Mike and Joe as best hair, I think, on YouTube. I will say Mike is probably the nicest guy on YouTube, so I'll give him that. And I'm very excited that he decided to come on here and talk about this because, Mike, there's a word on the street that you're a fan of this series, Back to the Future. Is that right?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I am. My T-shirt of choice today is the Mandalorian.
Oh, you got.
You know, you can see that very well.
You got a stormtrooper. You got Baby Yoda.
Well, you've got the Baby Yoda, and you've got the Mandalorian right there.
Mandalorian. That's what that. Okay, I see it now.
Right.
Yeah.
So combining two loves together.
That's awesome. I'm afraid I don't have a T-shirt or anything. Of course, I'm joking. Mike is the biggest fan I know of Back to the Future. I thought I was a pretty big fan of Back to the Future. Like, I think I have the movie. It's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I feel like I might have it higher than most people, maybe. But then I met Mike, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm nowhere near the fan that Mike is. He takes it to another level. I know in the background he has the Sports Almanac.
Yes. Well, I've got like a special edition. I can always show you guys some stuff in my collection. The Sports Almanac, though, kind of thing. I've got like one of the NECA figures, which is like a Sports Almanac cover. But then if you open it up, I'll try and just move my glass there. It's got bit cannon.
Sweet.
And he's got the almanac right there.
Okay.
So yeah, there's like a big like range of like figures you can collect here of these ones.
Okay.
I've only just got the one at the moment though, but yeah. I think I've got like a Sports Almanac prop or like a notebook of it. But at my parents' house, not here.
Okay. I've always seen it in the background. I thought that was the real Sports Almanac you had behind you or something.
Where we're looking? Are we looking here? Like here?
What you just showed. I thought that was the Sports.
Right. Get you. No,
okay.
There is a big booklet like that though, like that size as well.
Okay.
You can get. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask you if you could actually go back in the future, back in the past, and make money off of sports betting.
Oh, well, how far are we going? How far am I allowed to go? Like
I don't know,
anytime?
1980s, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, oh, okay. Being honest, I don't know a lot about sports normally.
You need the almanac. That's what I'm saying.
Right. I mean, if I had the prop here, I would probably pick a random page and be like, right, which one here could I choose from?
Yeah.
I guess the latest, if I was allowed to go back a couple of years, for example, football over here, which you guys call soccer.
Soccer, yeah.
There was like, so we've got something called the Premier League table, where you'll have like the best teams in England will play in this table every season. And a couple of seasons ago, there was a team called Leicester City, who were kind of like very unknown or kind of like not considered one of the big contenders every season. They actually went on and won the title. And I think at the time they were like 500 to 1 odds.
I say make money if they're not supposed to win.
Some people made thousands on that.
Yeah, that's the way to
crazy.
I don't gamble. That's just what I know. If you bet on somebody that's right? That's not considered supposed to
Mhm.
win, and they win, you can make a bunch of money, right? Something like
Right.
I don't know much about gambling, but anyways, but I know you have the plutonium behind you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
box.
so I've got like a little
Yeah,
Funko Marty with the DeLorean
yeah.
sat on there.
The DeLorean.
Don't ask me to show you all the Funkos because I've got like shelves and
Yeah,
shelves and
yeah, yeah.
shelves here.
No,
But I'll show the box set to show it. So yeah, got this recently.
yeah.
Um,
Looks like
I love the plutonium case as well.
yeah.
I think
Great.
that's awesome. And the thing is, when this was brand new in the UK, it was £90, which is maybe $110 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was like, I'm not paying that for that set, you know, because I just thought it was quite expensive, you know, for what it is.
Yeah.
But then I found a cheap deal on eBay for half that price, and on the description it said box might be slightly damaged. So I saw the pictures and I thought there's nothing wrong here. I can't see any like dents or anything. And when it came, there's no damage to it at all. So I was like, ka-ching, I'm buzzing, you know. So yeah, he's a little bit of an unboxing. I did one on my channel, but I'll show you an unboxing.
Remember you did
So
that.
you've got the top right there, and then
And
you open that up. I haven't got my gloves on though, so I hope I don't get plutonium here.
Your suit.
You open that up, and you get the 4K box set right there, and you get 3 separate tubes, and they've all got like little like micro like A4 size posters. And yeah, that's the box set.
Yeah,
So pretty cool.
I like that.
Right.
I also know Mike has. I know you have at least one tattoo of Back to the Future. Am I right?
Yeah. I'll just quickly pop this away 2 seconds. And I'll pop that Funko back. There we go. Yes. So the tattoo. I'm not sure how well you guys are going to be able to see this on camera. I'm going to try to show it off the best I can. So
Yeah.
I've got the logo flying in
cool
that
logo.
way with the DeLorean.
Oh, okay, there's DeLorean.
You can't really see that as well.
Okay.
And then on this bottom side, I've got
the
clock tower.
Clock tower. Awesome.
And then here, I've got you can't really see it because it's like angle-ish, but I've got a portrait of Marty McFly.
Okay. Wow.
And then I've got right there, you can see that kind of like the writing there.
Yeah.
That's Michael J. Fox's actual autograph.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I got to meet him in 2015.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is just a surreal.
Yeah.
One of the biggest moments of my life.
Oh yeah.
And at the time, they said, right, he's only signing 1 autograph per person. Well, because normally at these Comic Cons, if you meet a celebrity, you get 1 autograph, but you can pay to have extra, as many as you want normally. But he was only doing 1 because obviously he can only sit for so long because of his Parkinson's.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was like, well, do I get my kind of souvenir program signed, which I've got all the cast to sign, or do I get my arm, my arm signed? And I was like, I don't know, but ultimately I got the program. Again, it's at my parents' house. Otherwise, I would have loved to have shown you that. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that'd been something.
So yeah, I got the program signed, and then when I was getting my Back to the Future tattoo done, I went to the tattoo artist at the time, and I said, look, I was like, is there any way you can transfer that signature, make a copy without obviously, getting the ink into the book?
I've heard people doing that. Yeah,
and well, that's how it was done.
That's cool.
Thank you. So yeah, big Back to the Future fan here.
Yeah, I got nothing. I'm sorry.
Oh man,
I'm all white. You're white.
Maybe one day.
Maybe I should. But yeah, so needless to say, my number 1 movie for you is Back to the Future. I would hope so, anyways.
100%.
Yeah. So yeah. So I've always wanted to get Mike on to talk about his favorite movie, one of my favorite movies. I guess I should introduce Mike. I don't know if you want to introduce your channel a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So, well, firstly, thanks for having me, Jason. Honestly, buzzing to be here. I've been wanting to kind of do a stream with you for a while. I know you've joined me a couple of times on like Z Talks and hang out and chat and stuff on my channel.
Yeah, it's first time you've been on my channel, really, right?
Right. So yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know who I am, I'm Mike. My channel's called Did You See That? Which I've got to give credit to my brother Joe, by the way, because he came up with the name.
That's a good name. Yeah, I like.
Right. So I can't take the credit for that one. That was Joe. And yeah, so over on my channel, I do like movie reviews. I do like vlogs when I go out to like say a Comic-Con or game events, whatever I'm up to. Every now and then you might see me try a food video, so you might see something like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen one in a while.
I've got a couple in the pipe work.
Okay.
And I do like Back to the Future content. I want to do more of it, but it kind of just depends as and when that kind of comes up and the ideas come to my mind and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of like what you can expect to see over on my channel, and plenty of more other stuff as well coming very shortly. A lot going on in the background at the moment.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, Mike's one of my favorite YouTubers, of course, to watch, and we've collaborated. I've been on Z Talks 3 times now. We've done hangouts, I think, at least 3 times now.
Probably.
And, yeah, and the Z Talks on Thursdays is one of my favorite things to watch. I think everybody should definitely watch Z Talks on Thursdays.
That would be awesome.
Because it gets a really good group of movie lovers and talk everything about movies, which I love. So anyway, so yeah, thank you a lot for coming on, Mike. And got some chats already. Yeah, Adam from What the Gym.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Jason and Mike. Great to see you both. I'm excited to hear you talk about one of the best movie franchises with Back to the Future. Yeah, I was talking to him today. He's also a fan of Back to the Future. So
right. Well, yeah. Well, hi, Adam. Hope you're doing well.
Oh man, I gotta more.
And it's how we kind of met, actually. To be honest, we kind of met through Adam.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because he was on Z Talks, and so I watched Z Talks to support Adam. And then then I was commenting on your Z Talks, and you're nice enough to comment back, and next thing you know, yeah.
Well, at first, I'm not gonna lie. At first, when you were commenting on Z Talks, I was like, the old millennial. I was like, what does the old millennial mean? And then it took a while, and it clicked. I was like, oh, okay, stop being a doofus, Mike. Come on, that's what it means. That was Gareth commented before, so hi, Gareth.
Yeah, Gareth. When the stream hits 8 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious chat.
Right.
That's awesome. He just subscribed to my channel today, so.
Awesome.
That was nice of him.
Yeah, anyone who's watching by the way right now and is not subscribed to Jason now, please go subscribe. He's not too far from 150 as well, so yeah, let's help him get to that.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Obviously, subscribe to Mike, but I think if you know me, you probably already subscribed to Mike. I'm guessing, but
maybe.
Yeah, Sophie. Hi, Sophie.
Hey, Soph. Hope you're doing well.
Andy, right?
Hey,
yeah. Andy. From Forgotten World of Movies. Hey, Andy.
Hey, man.
Dr. Winston O'Boogie.
Hey, Winston. Hope you're well.
See, can we see an up close look at your Back to the Future tattoo? Well, I think we kind of did. But...
yeah, I mean, I can't. The thing is, with the camera angle on this, it's like in person, I can just show my arm like that, and you get like a full view. But like on camera, I'm like, I can't really, because you can't see. You only see like the side.
Yeah.
But I guess that's like the very, very close up, I guess.
Yeah, I can see it pretty good there.
Awesome. And yeah. Oh, hey, Briar.
Yeah, Briar.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike, you a Geordie mate?
Near enough, yeah. I'm born in Sunderland, the town over from Newcastle, where they call people Geordies.
Oh, okay. I was like, what's that?
Right. So in Sunderland, we get called Mackhams.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of our football teams as such, but yeah. So it's near enough.
Yeah. Hands up who saw the whole trilogy in the cinema. I didn't see any of the movies in the cinema, to be honest.
Saw the first one.
You seen the first one?
Yeah. So what happened was for the can't remember if it was the 25th or the 30th anniversary. I can't remember which one. If I look through my box of tickets, I'd probably be able to tell you.
Oh, okay.
But basically, what happened was, at like a cinema not too far from where I live, at the 25th, I think it was 25th anniversary, they put the movie back on the cinema for like a 1 day like special showing. And they also was advertising as being like, come get your snacks at like 1988 prices kind of thing as well, right? So I saw the movie on the big screen, and they were charging like £1.50 for like a Pepsi, which is maybe like $2, which is really cheap here.
Yeah.
The cinema prices. So yeah, I've seen the first one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen him in the theater. I was 2 years old when the first one came out. And then the second, third one, I was like, what, 6 and 7. So I was just a little bit too young to go out and, appreciate it at that point, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, but we'll get into some of the stuff I'll get into later.
Yeah.
Your brother's asking a question I was thinking about later asking. It says, hey guys, is there anyone in the Back to the Future movies who you would recast? As in, you thought an actor did a terrible job with their character, it could have been done better by someone else. So you're saying, yeah, is there somebody back in 1985 that would have been better than the cast?
Now, did you say you have a question about this later?
Well, I was going to ask a question later about who would you recast today. That's a later question I have.
Right. Okay. Well, if you want, we'll save that question for later then, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a good question.
That's Joe, Mike's brother.
Right. So we'll answer it later, Joe.
Good deal, Mike.
Thank you.
And tattoo also.
Thank you very much.
People are a big fan of your tattoos, I have to say.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I've got back to it. So here's a quick story for you. So what happened was, when I was 18 years old, I got my first tattoo. And by this point, Joe had like 1 full sleeve or nearly 2 full sleeves. I can't remember.
Uh-huh.
And I've always kind of fancied a tattoo, but at the time I was like, I don't really know what I want, kind of thing. And what happened was, on the top of my arm here, I got like a Sacred Heart at the time. And as the years went by, I added to it like a little bit. I put like some song lyrics like down near there and stuff like that. And then kind of like one day when I started getting like my left arm sleeve, and then I got like the portrait of Marty McFly, I was like, oh wow, like kind of like around that point, like 20 years old and stuff, I was starting to really get into Back to the Future. And I was like, oh, I would really love like a Back to the Future sleeve, but obviously that Sacred Heart was right smack bang here at the top.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, well, I can't really have Back to the Future with like a Sacred Heart. That doesn't really make sense.
Okay.
I guess unless you have like the power of love, maybe.
Yeah.
But I was like, it doesn't really make sense. So anyway, I got the half sleeve done, and again, that part was up here still, and I was like, well, doesn't really go. I talked to like my tattoo artist. He said, you maybe have to go down like laser removal, and I've heard that's like really painful.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I don't really want to go down laser removal. And then he also said, if you get a laser removal, that doesn't mean to say you can get tattooed over, because it can scar, it can really damage the skin. So I was like, well, what do I do with my arm, So I actually decided to get my kind of second favorite movie, which is like the Batman Dark Knight trilogy.
Okay.
And yeah, so top of my arm, I've got the Back to the Future, and then I've got like Batman at the top, which you might not be able to see that well.
Yeah.
And then underneath, I've got, again, you probably not be able to see well, but I've got like the Joker. Right. Otherwise, I'd have like a full arm sleeve Back to the Future if I was able to.
Okay. That's when it says, wow, man, you're a lucky Geordie.
Okay, I don't know how I'm lucky, but thank you.
Right.
But thank you, though, Winston. Appreciate you watching.
Wow, I got a lot of comments. I didn't realize.
Awesome. Well, yeah, well, hi, everyone who's in the chat right now or watching after the fact. Yeah, thanks for supporting Jason.
Dr. Winston's got a Pirates of the Caribbean tattoo. Cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
It says, can we have a link, Mike?
To my channel? I don't know if Jason's put that in the description box, possibly.
No, I need to figure out how to do that.
Oh, okay, no problem. Well, if not, just on YouTube, just type in my username, as you'll see here. Like, did you see that with the exclamation mark? And I'll probably be the first result that pops up. I think I'm the only one called that as well. So,
The Briar sub to you.
oh, well, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Briar's a great guy. I like Briar. We've done a lot together.
Yeah,
That's
you guys.
Says, what music are you into, Mike?
Right, okay, so this is an interesting one. And I've talked to Jason about this a little bit as well. So I'm a big fan of country music, believe it or not. And
more American music, isn't it? Or...
yeah, I would say so. I would say so. Yeah, like I absolutely love country music. I just find it kind of just relaxing, being honest with you. Yeah, so I like country music, but then there's sometimes I can then go into like heavy metal music. So kind of a bit all sorts really, but I tend to levitate more towards country music, being honest.
Yeah. That's because I don't think of England people as country, but maybe I don't know.
It's getting there. It's getting there a little bit.
Well, Jim or Adam hopes I get to 150 subs, so thank you, Adam.
Absolutely.
We'll see. Dr. Wentz says you mack him.
That's true. Yeah.
Such an English thing to say. You mack him.
But I'm sick.
That's
awesome.
Oh, he's 60. Yeah, so you're yeah.
That's awesome.
You're definitely around at that time. I saw the first two movies in the film class in high school. Haven't seen the third one yet. Okay, Briar.
Wow. Well, Briar, I think you need to rewatch the trilogy, my friend.
I recommend the third one too. Yeah, definitely another good one.
Me too.
Subs. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Trav. Hope you're well.
Hey, Garrett from Sound Lab.
Hey, hope you're well.
You've not seen Back to the Future 3, bro? You would love it. Yeah.
Right.
It's more of a Western if you like Westerns. Back to the Future 3 is the only sci-fi Western movie I can think of. Interesting.
Same here, I think, yeah.
Of course, we'll get into that one here in a bit.
Of course. We're going to get into it, guys. Don't worry. But thank you, everyone, leaving comments so far. This is awesome. Jason's playing catch-up right now.
Well, I might have to skip some of these so we can get into the talking about Back to the Future here.
Sure.
Because I haven't talked about it yet. But I have the trilogy Blu-ray.
Nice.
Which I got, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so. I've always, and just talk about Back to the Future itself, I've always been a fan since I was a kid. I was thinking to myself, I can't remember when I first saw the movie. It just was always around. Like I said, because I was 2 years old when the first one came out. So I'm sure I saw the first one on TV or something when I was a kid. You know, I can't remember how old, but it's just one of those movies that I remember from my early childhood seeing and just absolutely loving. And of course, seeing the second, third one probably shortly after, because they probably were all out by the time I started watching Back to the Future. So I saw all three probably right in a row, basically. I didn't have to wait around to see the other two. But yeah, I always was a fan of the series, seeing it, so many times growing up. And I don't know, like I said, about a year ago or so, I got this Blu-ray. I don't think I had the physical copy yet. And so I wanted to get the trilogy. Anyways, and this is a really cool booklet. I love it because it has all three of them in it. And
that's nice.
I love it. Got the pictures, the poster there.
Cool.
It's got it's got a lot of special features on them. I don't know if you watch the special features yourself, Mike. The making ofs and the audio commentaries.
I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't. Simply because I've had like the DVD collections of them. That's a cool timeline picture, by the way, that you just had. So yeah, with like the special features and stuff. So I've had like the DVD version of it. I've got the Blu-ray, and I've got the 4K now. I would say personally, it's only been the last couple of years I've started to get really into like special features on discs. Before then, it might be like, oh, it comes with like 60 hours of special features. I'm just like, I'm not gonna watch them. Just play the movie, But like now, I'm getting really into those extra content. So stuff that's probably on there I've not seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good making ofs. Of course, interviews uh, with Zemeckis and Bob Gale uh, and some, of course, some of the cast, and the audio commentaries are very good. The Zemeckis and Gale do audio commentaries in all three movies. Very good audio. I when I get a movie, I always watch all the special features and I go through the audio commentaries, and so I love as much information as I can about any movie anyway. So, but this is a really cool set. Of course, you have the 4K, which is probably also really cool.
Where is it? Okay. So I've actually got the 4K sealed at the moment.
Okay.
I've got the Blu-ray as well, I believe. I'm just looking up here because that's where my physical media is, like above the shelf here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have it actually. I think at my house. So yeah, that's it. Right. So at my mom's house, I've got like loads of like storage trunks of like memorabilia and stuff I collect. And I've got like the normal Blu-ray. I've got like the exclusive Blu-ray to Zavi. I've got like the Blu-ray exclusive from Target in America.
Okay.
Like those. So I recently got the 4K set. But so what happened was, very quick story here, because I appreciate you wanting to try and get onto some stuff you want to talk about. Is when I bought this 4K set, I had a PS4 at the time. And I remember the PS4 Pro came out. And I'm pretty sure in the shop where they sold the consoles, I heard the staff say, if you get a PS4 Pro that plays 4K discs. So I was like, oh, great. I had the Joker on 4K. I was looking for a reason to upgrade to 4K Back to the Future. Turns out the PS4 Pro does not play 4K movies.
I didn't think so. That was news to me.
Right. Well, I didn't play it. So I was like, so all that time, I was like, well, I don't have a reason to open this. I was like, yeah, I've got the exclusive edition where it's got like all the exclusive steel books. But I was like, I don't want to just open it and just sit there and I can't watch it.
Okay.
Because like with there, as I said, like load of bonus features, and it's got loads of like brand new stuff on 4K and it hasn't been released before. But now I've got a PS5, so I've got a reason to watch it now. But it's just like it's in front of my TV. Like I put it onto TV there, and I have to sit like here, so I'm quite close to it at the moment. I'm kind of waiting for like maybe one day, maybe making like a movie room. That's my dream goal, like a movie room.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Maybe like a recliner, and just I can just like this and watch it like that. That's how I kind of want to experience it. But we'll see. But yeah, I've got it on 4K.
Yeah. So, of course, Back to the Future came out in 1985. Stars Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, Christopher Lloyd as Emmett Doc Brown, Leah Thompson as Lorraine, Crispin Glover as George, and Tom Wilson as Biff. Kind of the main cast there. I didn't put down the actress who played Jennifer. I never remember her name in the first one because they changed the character after the first.
Yeah. Claudia Wells is the first one. Yeah.
It was directed by Robert Zemeckis, written by Robert Zemeckis or Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale.
Right.
Also want to say the musical score is by Alan Silvestri, who is an awesome musical score guy. I love a lot of his stuff. He did Forrest Gump, Polar Express, Avenger movies are him.
Right.
I mean, he's amazing. Yeah. So, I was going to go through. I saw some taglines. Taglines is like on the poster. They always have like a tagline for the movie or something like that. They had a bunch of taglines for this movie. I wrote down 3 that I liked.
Okay.
The first one is, he's the only kid to get into trouble before he was born. I thought it was pretty good. That was a pretty good tagline. I like that one.
Pretty good.
He was never in time for his classes. Then one day he wasn't in time at all.
Right.
The third one I wrote down was, Marty McFly is having the time of his life. The only question is, what time is it?
Okay.
Is there one that you like the best out of that?
I would say probably the first one.
The first one's my favorite. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
He's the only kid to get in trouble before he's born. Yeah, it's great.
Right. Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
what the official tagline was because it gave me like 5, 6 taglines on IMDb. But anyways, they're all I enjoy those.
The I would say the official one is the second one you said, where it's
Okay.
like he was never in time for class one day, he was never in time at all, or something
Mm,
along those lines.
yeah.
Because unlike the normal, like like movie posters you can buy in the shops and stuff, it
Yeah.
always has like that
Yeah.
paragraph on, like as
Okay.
a tagline. So that's the one I know anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I enjoy those.
Yeah.
I always enjoy seeing those taglines. They're always somewhat clever.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
anyways, uh, so to get a little bit of the backstory of the movie, I was thinking about because I think it has an interesting backstory to it,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you know as much as I do about it, maybe more.
Right.
Um, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. Um, Robert Zemeckis was kind of in the '80s was trying to get a movie going. He was friends with Steven Spielberg. They were like colleagues, maybe, or friends. Of
Right.
course, Spielberg was already a huge director at this point,
Hmm.
and Spielberg was trying to help him out. I think, trying to get the right project and everything. His first movie, I think, was around 1980, called "I Want to Hold Your Hand," which was a kind of movie about fans trying to get to a Beatles concert.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm a Beatles fan, so I enjoyed that movie. I've seen it a couple of times. It's an interesting movie, but it's
Right.
interesting. I didn't know that Robert Zemeckis directed that until just recently, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that movie.
Oh,
uh,
cool.
but it didn't do anything in the box office. Of course, it was
Hmm.
nothing there. And he did a couple movies. I think he did one with Robin Williams, like I forget the
Hmm.
name of it. It's like Car Sales or something. I don't know, something about cars.
Hmm.
And but he did a couple of comedies, and none of them did well in the box office. And
Yeah.
so he wasn't really getting a lot of traction. But his Bob Gale, maybe you know more. I think Bob Gale and him write together a lot, I believe, or they're writing partners kind of. And I think
Yeah. Yeah. They normally like collaborate. Yeah.
yeah, they usually collaborate. I don't know much about Bob Gale except for the Back to the Future franchise, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but anyways, I think it's Bob Gale who went home to his parents' house, and he was going through like a yearbook or something, and saw his parents in the yearbook. And he came up with this idea of like, what if I went back in time and met my parents when they were in high school?
Hmm.
And would I get along with my dad? Or what would I think of my dad if we were,
Right.
back in high school? It was kind of a thought that he had while looking at a yearbook, is from what I understand. Which is a very interesting idea, a premise to begin with, because you never think of your parents as teenagers. Your
Right.
parents are always old because they've always been 20, 30 years older than you.
Right.
uh, so you can't think of them as young. So it's always an interesting idea to look at your parents' yearbooks and see them as teenagers and go, oh yeah, they're as old as I was. Like we were the same age at one time.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting idea. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I believe Bob Gale came up with the idea, came to Zemeckis,
Yeah.
and they kind of came together and started writing on it,
Hmm.
on this idea of someone going back in time and meeting his parents. And of
Hmm.
course, I'm sure it took some time to really develop into what it became. I think I remember him saying, like, when they're trying to come up with a machine that make them go back in time, the first idea was a refrigerator. I think the time machine was going to be a refrigerator.
Yes.
You've
Yeah.
heard, which I don't know how that would work. Somehow you have to get inside, and I don't know. But then eventually they came up with a good idea that it should be a car, which was a brilliant idea because you can travel with a car. Uh, so once they got that, I mean, that was really got the ball rolling there. Anyway, so they wrote the screenplay for this, and they started going out to the movie studios trying to sell it. But from the interviews I saw on the Blu-rays, Zemeckis says that at the time when they were presenting it, they told him that it wasn't like gritty enough, it wasn't raunchy enough. Like they thought it was too family friendly. They actually wanted to be a little more edgier.
Hmm.
And I don't know
Yeah,
why. I guess the studios thought that was what was selling at the time, was more edgy material.
possibly.
Anyway, so it's kind of funny to think like they're like, oh, this is not edgy enough. And so nobody, and Zemeckis wasn't yet, had a hit behind him for him to sell the movie. So the
Right.
movie studios weren't buying it. He even went to Disney, and Disney said it was too edgy.
Right. Yeah, the whole mother and son. Yeah.
Yeah, the old mother and son thing was
Yeah.
too edgy for Disney. So it
Right.
was like they're not edgy enough for most, too edgy for Disney. So nobody would buy the script.
Right.
Interesting enough when he first was trying to get it out. Um, but then he made Romancing the Stone with
Yeah.
Michael Douglas. I forget the actress, but anyways, that becomes a hit movie. Does very well.
Right.
Now all of a sudden he has a hit movie behind him. So now the movie studios are like, oh, let's look at that script again. Because
Right.
that's Hollywood works. It's like it's hard to sell until you make a hit.
Right.
And
Right.
so once he got that hit, he was able to sell I don't know if it's the Universal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Universal maybe bought it or whatever. And that's how they kind of got the script going anyways, which I think is an interesting kind of backstory of how Zemeckis got in.
Definitely. Yeah. There was
I,
a
you
there
know
was a
any more information?
well, I was going to say there was a part when you were saying there about the fridge at the beginning. They were going to go with that idea, but then they also had like these studios coming to them with concerns, saying, "Well, hold on, if you do a time traveling fridge, does that mean kids are going to stuff themselves in fridges in hopes of getting time travel?"
Yeah.
So obviously they're like, right, well, the fridge is out the way. There was one point before the DeLorean about having a time vehicle as a Mustang.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then they thought, well, that's more of a sports car. It doesn't really scream kind of time travel.
Yeah, they're going for more a sci-fi feel, I think.
Right, right. And the other one I know was it was going to be like Spaceman from Pluto, the original title before Back to the Future.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
I think didn't somebody like write that? Was that him?
No, I
Wrote
think
that him? And then he said, "Oh, that's a funny joke" or something.
so. I think what it was, I can't remember the person's name, but I think it was like an exec
Yeah,
as part of like on this team of like Bob Gale was working with, and he was like, the name should be Spaceman from Pluto, and Bob Gale was like, that's dumb. But of course, this big studio exec was like, well, I know best. I know this should be
yeah,
this, but he fought him to say no, that's not happening.
yeah. It's a good idea. I mean, Back to the Future is a great title. I mean, you go, how do you go back to the future? You go back to the past.
Right.
Of course,
right.
they're in the past, and he has to go back to anyway. So it's a really clever title, I think, and unique and original, all that. So yeah, I'm glad they went with that. That's a good title there.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about Michael J. Fox. You know a little bit about Michael J. Fox and how he got the role.
Right. Yeah. So at the time, when he was approached for Back to the Future, he was a big TV actor. So on my channel, I've been going through like his filmography from like his debut.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get to current, but obviously it's taking a bit of time. So like before then he got like smaller parts in movies, and he kind of hit his big break on Family Ties, and this show took off.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, so I can't say how good it is.
Only seen a couple episodes, maybe.
Right.
Don't know about it, but
I think even at first on Family Ties, he was just a smaller part in it, and I think it was like the rest of the family were like bigger parts than him. Obviously, he was there, but not focused,
Yeah.
And then as the seasons were starting to go on, like people were loving his character, so he got more time.
He's the best part of the show.
Right. So at the time he was doing Family Ties, and apparently when Bob Gale and Spielberg and Zemeckis were coming up with casting, they wanted Michael J. Fox apparently from the get-go, but Gary Goldberg, I think his name was, who was doing Family Ties at the time, was like, no, you're not having him because he's on Family Ties.
Yeah.
And that was getting big ratings at the time on TV. So they're like, well, we're not going to lose our big star for a movie, right? So they didn't show Michael J. Fox the script at all. They said no. So the casting choice originally was Eric Stoltz. After rigorous, auditions with like Ralph Macchio, Ben Stiller, Johnny Depp. That there's plenty more, but Eric Stoltz got the job.
But he got out of that group.
Right. So Stoltz got the job. He was in the role for 6 weeks, and apparently on set the actors did not like Eric Stoltz at all.
Yeah.
Apparently he was very serious. He wasn't understanding that the role was serious, but also comedic timing as well.
Yeah.
Right. And apparently, like from what I've read in interviews, is as soon as he was fired, there was just a massive breath of fresh air on set. It's crazy. So what happened was that had happened, and obviously they had this time constraint to be like, right, we need to get the movie done in this amount of time. So they went back to Michael J. Fox because they wanted them to begin with. And by this point, obviously, the show Family Ties started to get a bit bigger, and they presented him with the idea, and they said, we'll give him the chance to read the script. So Michael J. Fox read the script. He said he loved it. He wanted to do it straight away. But Gary Goldberg was like, well, you're not leaving the TV show. We need you for the TV show of Alex Keaton, who he played in that show. And Michael J. Fox said, well, if there was a way around it where I could do a TV show on the movie, can I do it? And Gary Goldberg was like, well, yeah. It took a bit convincing, but eventually he said, yeah. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think through the day he was doing Family Ties, and then he would travel from kind of like a golf cart, kind of like escortation vehicle.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called. He was on one of them, and obviously he was traveling to the other set of Back to the Future. And in his memoir, A Lucky Man, which, if no one's read that, amazing book, he would only sleep through that transportation time.
Yeah, he didn't have sleep time.
Right. And sometimes he'd show up to Back to the Future set, he'd be drunk. So he'd forget his lines and be like, what am I meant to be saying here? Which is quite funny. I would love to know exactly which lines was it when he was drunk he was trying to say.
Yeah.
So basically he managed to do the filming, and obviously the whole cast loved him. Breath of fresh air. His chemistry with Christopher Lloyd was just off the charts.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how he got the role. And obviously he was doing the movie and the TV show at the same time, which is for like 2 weeks. Just nuts.
Oh, he's so busy.
Right.
Going from one to the other, doing day shoots, night shoots. That's
And the only sleep he got was between the transportation between the two sets, which is nuts.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that, but I mean, he does such a great job, though. So I mean, it didn't hurt his performance.
Probably elevated because obviously you had to stay awake.
That's crazy. Yeah, so he had to go back and reshoot some of those scenes, I guess, with Christopher Lloyd, and I think he had to reshoot the diner scene maybe with Biff, and
they had to reshoot the whole thing.
Yeah, that they were shooting with Eric Stoltz, and I don't really know Eric Stoltz that well. I don't know if I've seen a movie with him in it, to be honest. I've heard of his name, but I mean, yeah, I hate to say it, I think Michael J. Fox was definitely the good choice for the role.
Right. Well, here's a fun little fact for you. So this is in his memoir, Lucky Man, I was saying. So years and years later, he was at this fancy dinner or like this fancy event, whatever it was, and he came across the singer Cher.
Yeah.
And what happened was she pretty much blanked Michael J. Fox at this event because she's best friends with Eric Stoltz.
Yeah, because they did a movie together, I think.
Right. And I thought, wow, okay. That's quite funny.
But yeah, that's a very interesting backstory on Michael J. Fox. I mean, like I said, I think he did maybe some roles here and there, but this is his first starring role in a movie, right?
Yeah, well, yes and no. So going back into like some of his earlier filmography, his kind of main big starring roles where he was like the focus of the movie was mainly like just TV movies.
Okay.
Which no one really like had heard of really. So like one of them was like Poison Ivy, which
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of that movie.
No.
No, right, right. So yeah, but besides that, it was meaning like minor roles or um like a brief cameo even. So yeah, like in those early movies, if you watch them, like if you see him, you can see like he's got potential, but just as you said, it was kind of like not the main big focus, you know?
Yeah, and that's quite a bit of a. I think always think like when you're the main character. I mean, that's a big step up from being a
Right,
supporting to main because
right.
you're carrying the movie. I mean, and he doesn't exactly carry it. There's other actors that are
Mm,
like Christopher Lloyd is in it quite a bit and all that, but
right.
still, he's kind of carrying the movie in a bit. He's in just about every shot of the movie,
Mm,
and that's quite a lot of pressure on you, and not everybody can do that. And so I think it's pretty incredible that Michael J. Fox jumped in this role and
right,
totally carried the movie as a lead, and did an absolute great job of the movie. Anyways, um,
right.
yeah. So talk a little bit about the backstory. And one of the questions I wanted to ask, something I've always wanted to ask of you, Mike, and why I wanted you on here, is
Okay.
like, do you remember when you first saw this movie? And you're
Yeah.
such a big fan. Why are you such a big fan? I guess is my question. If that can
Yeah.
you can answer that.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So I've shared the story a couple of times, but yeah, I always remember the first time I saw this movie. So I would like to say I was maybe about between maybe the ages of 12 to 15. I can't remember the exact age, but it was around that time. And over here in the UK, we have so back before like Netflix, Amazon Prime, like stuff like that, we had something like equivalent to your guys' cable, pretty much. Where every week it was called Sky, the channel, so SKY, just Sky
Okay.
for
I've heard
example.
people talk about that from England. I didn't know what that was, but
Right. It's basically, well, at least back in the day, it was like our premier movie channel where you get the brand new movies would go on like once a week. You'd get a brand new movie
okay.
and thing. So I remember there was one day. It was on a Saturday on a weekend, and I just remember it was early in the morning, and every Saturday when I was younger, I would always go to the shops with my mum on a Saturday, and just go do grocery shop and have a look around like the shopping centre that's attached in the grocery centre and stuff like that. And anyway, before we were going out that morning, I went through the Sky Premiere channel and I saw Back to the Future. And like yourself, the title, I was like, Back to the Future? It's like, what does that mean? So I knew nothing about Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, nothing like that. So I went in blind in that movie. And I saw the first 10, 15 minutes. I think it's up to the point when he gets to the school and he's doing the audition, and then Huey Lewis says to him, "You're too darn loud."
Yeah.
And then obviously he's with Jennifer on the park bench for her dad picks her up, and then Power of Love kicks in. Like that was the last scene I saw. And then my mom was like, "Right, turn the TV off. We're gonna go out now." So I was like, "Oh man," I'm enjoying this movie.
Okay.
So so I remember I went out on that exact day. I went out with my mom to the shops, and I said, "Mom, I've just been watching Back to the Future on TV." I was like, "Can we get the box set?" And my mom being awesome, she's like, "Yeah, okay, cool." So I don't have it anymore, but I had the DVD box set. So we went out, and it was like £10, which currency nowadays maybe $12, $13. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Bad.
right. So got the DVD box set, and I went home after the food shop, and I put all three movies on.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right. And I was like, wow. I was like I was just like I just remember being that movie. I was like, wow, this is awesome. So yeah, so I had the DVD box set. So that was the first time I watched Back to the Future. And your second question as to why I love Back to the Future
Yeah.
is so in school, I was bullied in school, and there would always be like kids more popular than I was, or so basically in school, I used to have some popularity because Joe was popular in school.
Oh yeah.
So everyone would be like, "Oh, that's Joe's brother, Michael," you know. So that so I was known, not popular, but I was a known person in my year, right? But what happened was I started hanging around with some kids who maybe weren't as popular at the time, and because of that, people thought, "Oh, well, he's a perfect target for bullying," as such. Just because I hung out with people who weren't popular.
Hmm.
So I was bullied in school. I was like quite quiet. I was quite
Really?
shy. Yeah, I was a little bit of a podgier kid. You know, I had a bit more beef on me back then.
Uh,
I guess I was just an easy target for bullying. You know.
yeah.
So years later, after that first experience of Back to the Future, um, it was like kind of towards the end of school, going into college years. I was like, again, I was like just a shy, quiet kid. And I'm still like that a little bit at times, but I'm a bit more, outgoing now. I can have a conversation and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I watched that movie again. I decided, I'm going to put Back to the Future on again. And kind of like just seeing like the confidence that Michael J. Fox had in that role. I was like, if this fictional character can be confident, if he can, have a way with the ladies as such, and he's a good looking guy, and he, all this kind of stuff, I was like, well, why can't I be confident? And why can't I not just like maybe stick up for myself a little bit more, or get the girl that I'm after at the time, or whatever the case should be, so since that point, kind of like I decided overnight, I was like, right, well, I'm gonna just try being more confident. And ever since then, I've had a bit more confidence, So that movie, I guess I kind of owe a lot to the movie for doing that.
Wow. Okay.
Well, but more specifically, like Michael J. Fox's performance, and like that character, the embodiment of Marty McFly. So ever since that moment, I've just had like a really deep love for that movie. And every time I watch it now, I still get goosebumps every time I watch that movie.
Yeah. Okay.
No matter how many times I've seen it, get goosebumps every time.
Okay. Wow. That's really cool. I like that.
Thanks, man.
I mean, obviously, Biff is there's definitely a bully aspect to the movie. Mostly, right. George McFly gets bullied like no other by Biff.
Right.
And Biff is one of the I put him up there as one of the all-time bullies, I think, in movie history.
Right.
I think the only bully I'd probably put above him is Bowers from the It movies. Is a little more sadistic, but but Biff he's up there. I mean, he's horrible. He's a horrible human being.
Right.
And he's so intimidating because he's so much bigger than Marty and George. He's a pretty massive guy. I think he's probably 6'3", 6'4". I don't know.
Something like
Thomas
that.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So thank you for that. I really appreciate
man.
The story there about bullying. School. I don't know what it is about bullying. People feel the right to bully when they're in school. People that they feel are easy, like I said, easy targets to bully. And obviously there's some issues there psychologically with someone like that, I guess.
Here's a cool little story though. I've not actually told anyone.
Okay.
So one of the kids that actually used to bully me back in school, a couple of years later, I was actually dating his cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't date long, but we did it for a little bit,
Yeah, and he didn't like that, or
I don't think he realized it.
He didn't realize it.
The one stage, she was like, "Do you know X person?" I was like, "Yeah. Well, of course I know that person, And I was like, nice, got one up on them, I guess, in the long run.
That's funny.
Right.
Yeah, and I've known people in high school that are kind of bullies. And then after high school, when I met them again, perfectly nice people, got along with them great. I don't know what it is about the high school age that creates bullies. I don't know what that is, but there's something there. I hate bullying. Yeah, I hate movie bullies, and those my least favorite characters. But anyways, no, I talked about. I think what makes this movie so good is it has one of the best scripts I think ever written. I think when you think about some of the great scripts, if you're if you were going to, teach a class on script writing, it's like you would show them Back to the Future and be like, this is how you write a great script.
Right.
It's very well paced, not boring at all. Goes through, it's exciting. It's some amazing ideas, and of course, it's a sci-fi kind of. I always like, what do you call this movie? I guess I'd say it's a sci-fi comedy because I think it's a very funny movie.
Yeah.
But there's obviously the sci-fi element because it's time travel, so it has to be kind of sci-fi
Right.
automatically because of that. Though I think of it more, almost a lot of times I think more of the comedy because I think it's a really funny movie.
Yeah.
You can also call it an action adventure, maybe. I mean, there's so many things I think you can throw at in this movie.
I would say sci-fi comedy adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's got all these things, interesting elements in there. Um,
Right.
I love time travel movies. That I just love the whole concept of time travel and changing your past. I think it's such a interesting idea.
Right.
Going in the past, doing
Yeah.
something, and changing your future.
Right.
And I don't know if there's other movies that did it before this, but I don't think a movie did it better than this, uh, in my opinion.
To be honest, I don't think there's been a movie done it better since.
Right.
Either. I don't
Yeah.
think before or since. There's been plenty of time travel movies since then,
Yeah.
but there's been none that have been like. Don't get me wrong. I would say a movie I kind of like of that concept is Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think you guys call it something different in America. It's the Tom Cruise Emily Blunt movie.
Yeah. It came out as Edge of Tomorrow, and then they renamed it Live Something Die Repeat.
Live Die Repeat.
Live Die Repeat. I think they renamed it or something. It's weird.
Right. Right. Now I like that kind of time travel one where once he dies, he's got to fix the, why he's getting killed kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that's kind of like the main time concept you get nowadays is the main protagonist dies and they've got to figure out why they're dying all the time.
Yeah. That's
never like a time machine kind of movie. Not that I can think of, or at least memorable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely a very popular. Star Trek does it all the time. They always do.
Yeah,
time travel. If you watch Star Trek stuff, all sci-fi loves time travel. Of course, that's always a big thing. And obviously, I think there's a time travel movie called Time Machine before this, and there's been kind of. But what I love about Back to the Future is definitely has some of the most brilliant ideas, I think. And one of my favorite is the idea. Of course, I just love the whole idea. Is like he goes back into the past, he messes up his parents' meeting,
right,
and he's erasing his own future. I mean, that's such a. I love that idea that he basically destroyed his own future because of what he did in the past, and now he's got to fix it, or he won't ever exist. I mean, so I love that whole idea, and it's got great stakes. I mean, I always say like I like a movie that has good stakes to it. Like you got to get this done, or something bad's going to happen. The world's going to end, or whatever. In this case, you and your siblings will never be alive. I mean, so that's a pretty big deal.
Right.
So once you get to that point in the movie, it's like, oh man, this is a real serious, thing. You're really rooting for Marty McFly to get his parents back together. That kind of thing. And also it's a kind of a race against time because he needs to do this, and also he needs to get the DeLorean to hit the line that's connected to the clock tower, so because the lightning will hit it. Everything has to be done, and you don't have forever. You only have a short amount of time to get all of it done.
Right.
So I love that because that gives the movie like, oh my gosh, we got to, it gives it a kind of the edge of your seat kind of thrills of like, oh my gosh. I mean, of course it's a movie, so they're going to make it. The good guys are going to win, but still there's this idea of like, oh my gosh, are they going to make it? Like there's a lot of stuff stacked against the main character that he has to overcome. And I think it's such a great idea, premise for the movie.
Right.
I think that's what I love so much about the movie is that whole idea behind it. I don't think, like I said, has ever been done quite like that ever. That I can think of, going in the past and destroying yourself. That's such a great. I mean, what's what's a better premise than that? I think, anyways. And I love one of my favorite ideas, or the ideas I have, is the way that he knows he's going to disappear is that he looks at a picture of himself and his siblings, and as he's, as time's going, you see him disappearing from the picture, and that's how you know he's not going to exist. And to me, that's such a brilliant idea because it shows the audience. You can, as an audience member, you totally get it. You're like, yeah, oh no, he's, and then once he, he gets his parents back together, he comes back on the picture, oh, he did it, So I thought that was a really great idea, I think. By Zemeckis or Gale, anyway.
I agree.
So many brilliant ideas, I think, in the movie. Is why, I love Sides. I think it's absolutely hilarious movie. Love the chemistry between Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. Like you said, they have just like this instant chemistry, I suppose, compared to Eric Stoltz or something. You really believe they have this friendship. It's, to me, like one of the best friendships in movies.
Yeah, I think with Back to the Future, I think one thing that I really like as well is nowadays in movies, I guess it's expected where we expect backstory about a character, and wonder like, okay, well, why did they get like this?
Why?
What upbringing like? What was X, Y, and Z? Back to the Future, we never learn why Marty's friends with Doc.
No, we don't.
Like, why? I mean, if you watch the behind the scenes and like read the book, a bit more understanding about like he stumbled into the garage one day and Doc kind of hired him as an assistant as such and wanted him to work there. That's kind of what's that?
Oh, is that the reason?
Yeah, so it's never explained in the movies.
Okay.
But like the backstory of behind it is I think one day Marty was like messing around like on the street, and I think he stumbled into Doc's garage. Okay. And Doc was like he seems like kind of like a cool kid, or maybe a little bit like how I would have been when I was a bit younger. And then he kind of like offered him a job to like help him out in the garage and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's just such a, it's never explained in the movies, but don't need it to be explained because it's just like straight away you feel they're best friends.
Yeah, you just understand they know each other and they've been around each other, and they hang out, I guess, after school or whatever. And Doc always has these weird experiments, probably, and
right, exactly.
He's always working on something, probably,
Right.
Yeah, because it's always weird because Marty's supposed to be in high school. Doc, I don't know if he's supposed to be in his 50s or 60s. I don't know. He's up there, right? Or
I think so.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird because you don't think of that age gap being friends, but yeah, it works totally for me in the three movies. I
think it really just depends, because when I used to work for Lego, years and years ago, there was a guy came in there called Kelvin, and he must have been at least like 30 years older than I was, 20, 30 years at least, and he would come in and we'd become good friends.
Okay, that's interesting.
And we just bonded over Back to the Future pretty much, but yeah, it goes to show anyone can be friends, really.
Yeah.
Obviously, certain times that can be creepy, but
exactly, that's the issue that you can come across in that kind of setting, but it works.
Right.
To me, I don't ever question it. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things like I think I remember, like, I've seen this movie so many times, and I always thought it was a fun movie. But I do remember there's like one moment when I was watching it, and I was like, oh man, this is like one of the best movies ever. Like, there's some transition there where I remember seeing it and just thinking, like I said, I think just the whole script and idea behind it is just one of the best I've ever seen. And what I love is that so when you get to Marty McFly in 1985, his parents his dad's a loser, let's say.
Yeah.
what can he say? He's kind of a weird guy. He he's still getting bullied by Biff all these years later. Who I guess they worked. Did they work together? I don't know.
Yeah. Biff was his supervisor.
Okay, I was thinking he was kind of like a boss or something to
Yeah,
George, because
pretty
we
much.
see him come to his house and he treats him like crap. Of course, he crashes his car or something like that and tells him he has to pay for it.
Right.
And he's like, "All right, Biff, whatever you say," And
Yeah.
so he's still doing whatever Biff says, and Biff's like taking his beer and he's, hey, look at that, and doing that thing, and
Yeah.
you're so gullible, McFly, or whatever he says, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and even Marty's like, Dad, you gotta stand up to it or something, like Dad, get a backbone.
Right.
He's
Right.
like, I know, son, but he's my super. It's like,
Right.
but anyway, so his dad's kind of loser. His mom, I mean, I won't say loser, but she's definitely not what she was in high school. Of course, she's older or whatever. And I think she even looks at George kind of like, what did I marry? you know, um,
Pretty much.
his older brother is like, he's like a fast food delivery, I think, or something, pizza delivery, maybe. Nothing
McDonald's.
against that. What's that?
McDonald's, I think.
McDonald's. Okay.
I think.
Nothing against that, but it's not really a career you want to you have. You want to have, you want to aspire to be something else. So I think there's this whole idea, and the sister is not very I don't know. There's this whole idea that the whole family is kind of dysfunctional, I think, in
Right.
some sense. Except for Marty's like the cool guy in the family.
Right.
He plays guitar, he skateboards. I mean, I don't know. He's a
Yeah.
troublemaker. I don't know. But anyways, so I love this whole idea that like this whole family dynamic. And then he goes back in time. He accidentally messes up his parents getting to meet because his dad gets run over by his grandpa, and his dad's really not a good person. He's a peeping Tom.
Right.
Which is a funny revelation, because the mom always talks about how romantic it was, and it's like,
Right.
not really. But anyways, and so I love that whole, of course, then the whole movie is like, oh, I gotta get my parents back together, which is hard because Lorraine is actually like a real hottie back in the 50s, and I don't know if she's popular, but I mean, I would say she's probably pretty popular. George is kind of a nerdy. He doesn't really have friends. He's kind of a loner, it seems like. He's not very confident. He has no confidence, to ask a girl out or anything. And so it's like, oh no, this is like a really hard situation trying to get George, the nerdy loser, to try to get together with the popular hot girl, And so that whole dynamic is, is really fun. It's a very difficult situation. But he has to do it, or him and his siblings will never exist. So you have to do it. You have to do everything you can. There's no other option. You got to get your parents together.
Right.
Anyway, so of course it all works out, and then he goes back into 1985, and this is where I remember seeing it one time and just like I absolutely love this whole idea. When he goes back into his time, his dad is no longer a loser, so he actually made his family better by accident.
Right.
So the whole going back in time, it seemed like a disaster, but actually worked out the best for his whole family in the future. If that makes sense. And I just think that's such a brilliant idea. Like when I remember watching it and going, oh, he made everything better. He almost made everything worse, but so it's like at first it was like, oh no, this is a really bad thing. But then it's like, no, this is a really good thing. He went back in time and messed up his parents and then gone back together, actually made the future better. I don't know. I just think that's such a great concept. Like I said, I love that the father, he actually like wanted to be a sci-fi writer.
Yeah.
And Marty kind of gives him the confidence, I guess, to go about it, because he never knew his dad liked to write sci-fi.
Right.
And so then we get to the 1985. His dad's like a successful sci-fi writer, basically, or right? Because it seems like they're wealthier in 1985 when they get back.
Yeah, seems like it. Yeah.
His dad's not a loser. His mom's like prettier. I don't know. His his sister has so many boyfriends she can't keep track of them. His his brother like wears a suit to the office. Anyways,
Right.
love. Well, I'm sorry I'm talking a lot here, Mike, but
No, go for it.
I'm just explaining. That's what I love about this movie. That whole idea of like, oh man, and Biff is the loser, kind of. He's out there washing the cars, and he's going,
Right.
now Biff, I told you to do a second coat. Oh, I'm sorry, George or Mr. McFly, and so the whole bullying gets reversed, where now he's talking down to anyway. So to me,
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite endings, I guess, to a movie. Sorry, I'll talk a lot. I don't know. I'll give it back to you. What do you think?
No, not knock yourself out. No, I agree with everything that you say. Yeah. I think for me, like, it's just got like so many great messages, and I think every time you see it, or at least every time I see it, I usually pick up on something, even the smallest of details.
Yeah,
And obviously you got a message about family, and about as you said, like them being losers, and then at the end they're kind of successful people. You got like just family dynamics. You got about bullying in there. You got
yeah,
about confidence.
yeah,
You got about fixing past mistakes, or maybe not fixing past mistakes. And yeah, I think one of the best things about Back to the Future is we've all at some point in our life been like, wish I did that differently, or I
yeah,
wish I went down this career path, or I wish I took that job instead of this job, or whatever. I certainly have. And I don't know, like I've always like been like, oh, but what if I did this? Where would I be now? Would I be the same person? Would I be different? So yeah, I think it's a movie that's, like you said, it's never been done again. I don't think it would be like if a movie tried to copy it, I don't think it would be as successful, because it's not like it's like a generic comedy movie which you can just redo in a different way. It's like a unique time travel movie about traveling back and meeting your parents, which if any movie tried to do that, it'll just be like, oh, it's just Back to the Future.
yeah. It's been done before.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. Anyway, so I just say all that. Say, yeah, I love the script of the movie. Is one of the big strong points of why it's such a good movie.
Right.
Then I want to talk about the performances. I always like to when I do. In fact, I've actually reviewed all three movies on my channel early on when I did the channel.
Oh,
Yeah, so I don't know. I did that a year ago. Maybe I went through all three movies and kind of gave my thoughts on them. And one of the things I like to do is like talk about what my favorite performance of each movie is.
right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I ask you what I probably know the answer, but I just ask you like, what's your favorite performance?
Okay, so I'm gonna go separate movies. So first movie, I would probably say a tie between Marty and George.
Okay, yeah,
Because Marty's obviously the big highlight, but George deserves more credit for like how well he does that role. The second movie, I would probably say Marty. I would say more Marty in the second movie, and then the third movie, Biff or Buford.
yeah,
Yeah, I think like Tom Wilson steals the. He's great in the first movie. Don't get me wrong, and he's great in the second one. He plays
yeah.
it like a future Donald Trump as such, But in the third movie, he goes completely different route.
Yeah,
Like I think he's the main one character in the entire trilogy that goes and does something different every movie. Whereas Marty's just got like a different outfit. Doc's got a different shirt on. Like Lorraine's
yeah,
got different. Obviously, I know she's got like in the second one bigger friends, I guess.
yeah,
But they're still playing the same person. Whereas like he's playing Biff, then he's playing Griff, then then playing Buford. You
yeah.
know, so yeah, I guess I don't know. It's been a tough one, but I would say Marty and George the first one. Second one probably more Marty. Third one, Buford.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I kind of agree with with those choices actually.
Mm.
Uh, I always loved Christopher Lloyd. It's probably my favorite. Doc Brown. This is the
Right.
first movie I've seen. Pretty much everybody. This first movie I've seen any of them in. I guess I should say.
Mm.
Christopher Lloyd is maybe the one actor that has done stuff before this movie. Of
Yeah.
course, he's a bit older. I know he was in a TV show called Taxi,
Mm.
maybe where he really got to start. And I can't think. I don't know a lot of what he's done, but I know he's done a lot more stuff.
Right.
This definitely was a breakout role for him to me, though.
Mm.
Um, Absolutely love the character. I think his line readings are so funny. I
Right.
love the 21 gigawatts, like the way he does that. You know, great Scott.
Yeah. Right.
Uh,
Right.
the way he moves and expressive. I think he's absolutely hilarious. I've always loved Doc Brown. It's
Mm.
always been like my favorite. Obviously, Michael J. Fox is great, though. I mean, I can't imagine anybody better than him in this role. Um, and you said, yeah, George, Crispin Glover is almost an underrated performance here. I don't think people talk about him enough. He's absolutely hilarious when he
Right.
goes to the, like I love when he goes into the diner to, talk to Lorraine, and you are my density. I mean, I know the way he does the whole line reading is absolutely hilarious. He's so
Right.
he has this kind of weird energy about him that I think is so great for the character.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like one of my favorite lines is when he goes into the Lou's diner.
Yeah,
And he's trying to chat up Lorraine before the density part. He gets to
yeah,
the thumbs his hand down. He's like, Lou, milk,
milk,
chocolate.
and then he like drinks it and puts it down.
Right. Whereas in movies, it'd be like, oh, they want to get a pint, you
Yeah,
know? Whereas he just wants a chocolate milk, and that gives him
milk.
confidence.
He's trying to look cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think George is such a great character.
Oh
And
yeah.
like I know the movies a Marty Doc story, they all pretty much are, but like that first movie is a lot of George McFly and him. Yeah, I just think Crispin does a great job. The,
Yeah.
the the only thing I can say to you, Jason, is
Yeah.
if you get a chance next year, the musical is going to Broadway
Uh-huh.
in New York. Now, obviously, I'm not sure how far that is from you.
A little ways
Probably,
away, but
but the musical over here in the UK, George McFly was played by a guy called Hugh Coles. Now, when they announced the musical, I was like, a musical of Back to the Future?
right, yeah.
I doubted it straight away. I was like, really? But I watched it, and obviously my mind was changed pretty quick. But Hugh Coles, I'm going to go on record here and say he is like 99% or better than Crispin Glover.
Oh really?
Phenomenal.
Okay.
Amazing. The closest you're going to get to Crispin Glover ever.
Okay.
And that's why they're bringing him over from the UK to Broadway to be George. He's that good.
Okay.
Yeah. The mannerisms, everything are perfect.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
kind of there's a physicality about the character that is so funny, I think.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I feel like Crispin was perfect for this, and Crispin really he's been in stuff here and there, but this is by far the biggest role he's ever had. I feel like you think this role would make him a big star or something, but I feel like he never really got to that point. I feel like he's kind of a strange person in real life, maybe, and
Yeah.
that's my take.
So not to go too much into it, because it's a bit of a longer story. But from some background knowledge, like, because do you know any behind the scenes stuff about him and Bob Gale and what's gone on since then, or not?
Well, I know he drove them crazy on set, that he wouldn't stay on his mark or something like that. They would, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, but I remember them talking about like they're like Crispin, you got to stay right here, and he would keep moving around, and they
Right.
even they said they even taped him to a chair. They like to keep him
Yeah.
from getting up out of the chair. Like, you got to stay in this chair, and they like,
Right.
duct taped him to the chair. I don't know. So I know he drove him crazy.
Yeah. So there's like that kind of stuff, like where he'd keep going out of scene all the time, or because he'd be like, George McFly doesn't do this, and he'd
Yeah,
walk
yeah,
off. But there's more stuff like behind the scenes and since then, like what's happened. So Crispin Glover actually sued like Bob Gale, Back to the Future.
yeah.
I don't know if you know that or not.
I don't remember it. No.
So pretty much, long story short, is they wanted them back for Back to the Future 2
Right.
or Part 2.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'll do it, but I want a pay rise.
Right.
And I think he wanted $1 million. Now, obviously, $1 million in 84, 85, it's probably a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, still is now, but especially then,
Yeah.
And they were just like, no, they're like,
Yeah.
we're not giving you a pay rise. So what happened was the original script of Back to the Future Part 2 was going to involve a lot more of George McFly.
I figured so. Yeah.
Yeah, so they obviously had to change the script.
Because of Crispin left.
Right. So what happened was they hired an actor called Jeffrey Wiseman,
Mm-hmm.
who I've interviewed on my channel before, like a year and a half, 2 years ago now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was a really fascinating conversation with him.
That's cool.
But basically what he was saying is, because they hired him and they used like 12 hours in makeup to make him look like George McFly, Crispin Glover sued Back to the Future for using his likeness.
Using his likeness. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was successful.
Okay.
I think he won like $1 million or 1.5 million, something like that.
Yeah.
And because of that, they actually made a law in acting that you can't use a likeness without someone's permission.
Okay.
And that's all started from him.
Okay.
So since then, him and Bob Gale don't speak to each other.
Well, yeah.
Or they like badmouth each other. I don't know fully.
Oh, sure.
And in person, he won't sign Back to the Future stuff.
Oh, really?
Nah.
Yeah, nothing to do with it. Huh?
So a couple of stories what I've heard, and I'll just make this brief, is Crispin's done since then. He's done a couple of his own feature movies. I don't know how good they are, but he's done a couple.
Yeah.
So what's happened is he's done a couple of movies, and when he's done these movies, he's done kind of like a fan invitation where people can go check out his movies and he'll be there.
Uh-huh.
So he'll do this screening, and then afterwards he usually does a Q&A about the movies. And then if someone has a Back to the Future item, they might be like, oh, Crispin, can you just sign this for me? Firstly, his handwriting's like a 5-year-old kid, so it's like scribbly like this all over the place. But also, he won't just sign his name. He'll sign. So a lot of people have said he's ruined their collector's pieces.
Really?
Because, like, for example, if you meet a celebrity, like Michael J. Fox, this one, he's just signed his name, right? He just signed his name. Crispin Glover will be like, thank you for coming out to my show, Crispin Glover, on a Back to the Future item. Yeah. So, yeah, he's a very strange guy from what I've heard.
That's my feeling about him.
Yeah, I would love to meet him, but I've heard he's a very strange character. I might be wrong, just what I've heard.
Well, I remember, yeah, watch this movie, and you're always like, man, what a good performance. He really was. He really acted like a strange person. And I remember my dad told me, like, oh, he wasn't really acting. He really is a strange person. And so,
yeah.
So it's not, I mean, I think it's a good performance, but it's like, he does it because of his personality in real life. Kind of plays into that. I don't know if you ever seen the interview with David Letterman when he was on David Letterman after this movie.
Don't think so.
Well, he did another movie after Back to the Future. It was a nothing movie that did nothing. And in fact, if you see him in other movies, he kind of plays similar to this character. Like, that's just the way he is, I think.
Yeah. I am. Well, believe it or not, sorry to interrupt. Believe it or not, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's a movie called High School USA in my Michael J. Fox filmography.
Okay.
And Crispin and Michael's in that before Back to the Future.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And in that movie, he's pretty much George McFly.
Yeah, George McFly. So yeah, I think he kind of plays this kind of similar character in like this other movie. Anyways, he came on David Letterman. This back in the '80s, around this time, and he came out, and I think you can find it on YouTube. He comes out and he has like this weird long wig on. He has like I think weird glasses on. And he comes out and he acts really weird. And in the interview, he gets up and he starts doing high kicks. And he almost kicks David Letterman in the face. Like,
what?
He stands up out of his chair and starts like doing these like karate kicks. And what? Yeah, and David Letterman got up and walked out on the interview. On anyways, it's such a disaster of an interview for Crispin Glover. I mean, Crispin Glover's never been on another interview since. I mean, he's never. I don't think he's ever been on another talk show since. I think he just ruined himself when he did that. I don't know what he was doing. I think he was, he was trying to do a character or something. Anyways, I think it really backfired on him because I like David Letterman never talked to him again after that. I don't think Tonight Show ever took him because they're like, this guy's too much of a liability.
Right.
Get him. Right. Anyway, I say all that to say just that Crispin Glover, unfortunately, never really came close to this role. I think he's absolutely brilliant in the performance. I will say in this movie. But anyways, yeah. So getting off of that, I also like to always talk about when I talk about a movie. I like to talk about what is your favorite scene in the movie. Obviously, there's many good scenes in this movie, and so do you have one that you would say is your favorite scene?
That's a good question. Okay. I don't know if I've got a favorite as such. I think I've got maybe a couple of favorites.
Right. I figured so, yeah.
Like one of my favorites, I think obvious one is Johnny Be Good. That is just a great scene.
Yeah.
And as I watch it every time, I appreciate that scene more. So that I would say that's definitely one of my highlights.
Mm-hmm.
I also quite like the garden scene when he's talking to George and George is hanging up the washing, and he's like, "Right, let's go over the plan again. So at 9 p.m., George, me and Lorraine's gonna be,
you're gonna touch her." No, George.
Yeah. Yeah. And then George is going on about he can't do it. He's got to watch science fiction theater at 9 o'clock. He can't miss them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then that leads into the follow-on scene, which is directly on that, where Marty dresses up as Darth Vader and the Edward Van Halen. And right. So that scene I've always loved, like the garden scene's great.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's just a fantastic scene. And just shows him like trying to bond, and he's trying to give him like some inspiration advice, giving him pretty much an easy coy to get Lorraine, and he's just like he messes that up,
Yeah.
So I'd say they're my two favorites. Besides that, I mean I love the whole movie, but I'd say those ones are like my favorite scenes. I would say. What's yours?
Well, I put a poll on YouTube I got a community tab recently.
Yeah, I voted.
So I can put a poll on, which I love doing polls. So I did a poll, I thought, before this video, and it's what is your favorite scene in Back to the Future? And I gave 4 choices.
I voted.
Okay.
I voted the guitar scene.
The choices were him singing and playing Johnny Be Good at the parents' whatever, the homecoming. I don't know what the
Enchantment of the Sea.
Yeah, Enchantment of the Sea. Then I put the scene where he's being chased by Biff and his gang, and he's on a homemade skateboard. That scene.
Right.
Then I put the scene where George knocks Biff out, and then for a 4th scene, I put the scene where he tries to make it back to Doc before the Libyans get to him, because the Libyans are going to come shoot him, and he wants to try to get there and save him. I put those 4 down as I thought maybe the 4 best, most iconic scenes of the movie. And number 1 by far was the Johnny Be Good scene. Got 57% of the vote. Second was, I think, George knocking Biff out, I think was like
right,
20-something%. And then third was the being chased by Biff on the skateboard was like 14 or something. And then the fourth one didn't get any votes, whatever. But so yeah, Johnny I think is definitely the most iconic scene, I want to say, out of the movie. I think you definitely think of that scene because of Michael J. Fox's performance, and he's doing all the Chuck Berry moves, the behind the back. I think he's doing the duck walk. I don't know. He's doing all these that no one's seen in 1955. I mean, this is this stuff hasn't been invented yet. Rock and roll stuff.
Right, right.
And even Chuck Berry's cousin is actually in the band. Hey Chuck, this is your cousin, Barry Gordy or something, or Gordy Bear or whatever.
You know that new sound you've been looking for?
Now listen to this. And so Marty basically invents rock and roll in that scene, I guess. Funny enough, but anyways.
I think I read somewhere, by the way, that specific scene where he's singing Johnny Be Good.
Yeah.
He approached Chuck Berry to say, look, can we use your song? And I think first they said no. And really? I think ultimately they offered him like $50,000 and he said, yeah. Yeah.
That's a good scene. My favorite scene, the scene that always gets me, is the scene where George he goes to the car like he's supposed to. He opens the door and it's not Marty, it's Biff, his bully.
Hey, you.
It gets you. And he's like, oh no, it's Biff.
Damn, hands off.
Yeah. And Biff's like, I think you got the wrong car or something, and he's like,
Scram McFly.
No, Biff, you get your hands off her, and he's finally standing up to Biff the first time in his life.
Right.
And I love that scene. Biff gets up, he's sexually harassing or he's sexually assaulting Lorraine.
Right.
This is a horrible, horrible human being. Right. He should be in jail. He should be a sexual offender. I think he should be in jail, at the end of the movie.
Right.
Anyways, but he's sexually assaulting Lorraine, terrible. Makes him the most horrible person in the world, at that scene, which is good because you want to hate him. So you're like, oh man, I want George to knock this guy out so bad. And so he comes up, he punches him, he catches it, he twists his arm, and he's laughing. And we see Marty's falling down because it's like he's dying because it's like, oh, his parents are never getting back together.
Right.
Looking at the photo and he's disappearing and they're playing this music. It's really dramatic kind of thing.
Goes going missing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, his hand starts disappearing. And you hear Biff's laugh. It's so, it's such an evil laugh that he's laughing at. And I love the scene where it up close is on George as he looks up at him and sees Lorraine. It close ups on his fist as it makes the fist. I love that so much. The close up of the fist closing, and then Biff turning around and hitting him doing like a 360 or 180, falling off the car. I absolutely love that scene so much. It's one of my favorite scenes of any movie of all time. Anytime I'm watching that scene, I'm like, it's like one of those things like, everybody shut up. I want to see that. Like, that so many times, but I almost want to go, everybody shut up. I got to concentrate on this scene because I love it so much. And it gives me like goosebumps every time I watch that scene. And I think it's because of the close-ups, because of the music that's playing, the Biff's evil laugh. It's just, the editing is so good.
I think it's just the character journey. Because we see George in the present day a loser.
Yeah.
Or back to high school where he's still a loser. Well, as such, I guess you could say he's a loser. And it's just throughout the entire movie, Marty, the cool kid, trying to give him advice, trying to help him get the hot girl as such in school. He just doesn't take this advice. He's a peeping Tom. He's got like everything going against him as such,
Yeah.
And it's just like his shyness and he's secluded from social activities and stuff. And I think it's just throughout all that whole thing, and because he's getting picked on by Biff, in that moment, I say when that fist starts to clench.
Yeah.
It's like finally,
Finally.
it's hit him in the head to be like, come on, George, do it. And then even when you go in after that, like when he gets there and takes him in school, there's that ginger kid who pushes him to the ground.
Yeah, I know.
And he's like, back, and he pushes him off, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great character arc, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a great, like you said, standing up to your bully. I mean, it's got so many great, ideas there.
Right.
And it's the most satisfying punch in his history. Like, it's so satisfactory seeing him punch Biff. This horrible human being, knocking him. I mean, something you never think you'd see him knocking Biff, who's this huge guy,
right?
And he's protecting Lorraine. So I mean, it's a great moment of him, standing up to Biff to protect Lorraine, who's going to be sexually assaulted. So it's it's a very good cause of doing it.
Right.
And and it's just, I don't know, it gets me every time I see that scene, and are you okay? He says Lorraine, whatever. And then that's the point where Lorraine falls in love with him, basically.
Right.
Anyway, so, and like I said, all those other scenes are, and I said those other scenes are really good. I have to say, I love the scene where he goes back to try to save Doc, and he tries to tell Doc, hey, listen, these Libyans are going to shoot you and you're going to die. And Doc's like, no, I don't want to know the future,
Right. Right.
But he doesn't want his friend to die. So he's trying so hard to save his friend, Doc. And he goes back. He's too late. He witnessed the Libyans shooting him again. Here, of course, I'm spoiling this whole movie for anybody. Hopefully everybody's seen this, but
which, by the way, well, here's a question for you. I've never understood this, right? In that scene, when he goes back to the future and he's like, right, I've got all the time I want. I've got a time machine.
Yeah.
Why does he go back 10 minutes?
Why didn't he go back further?
Like, why not just go like half an hour? Give him time to like get there, witness it all. He goes back and then he's late. I just don't get it.
Yeah, how did he mess that up?
Right.
He has a time machine, yeah.
Well, right. Because, you're not going to think, especially, I'm assuming he's probably hoping that DeLorean was going to get him to the Twins Pine Mall or Lone Pine, whatever it was called at the time. And obviously it runs out and obviously it's freezing cold. It's not going to drive anymore, so he has to run. So I'm assuming he's hoping the DeLorean was going to drive there, but still 10 minutes is
still 10 minutes, not enough time.
Right. Because imagine if they shot him and he didn't take precautions, he'd be like, well, Doc's dead now.
Oh, man. Good question. That's definitely a mistake by this part.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I love that scene where he goes to Doc. He sees Doc is dead. He messed up, and he's crushed. That's a very emotional scene. I get choked up in that scene every time I see it.
Right. Yeah,
it's very emotional. Like he didn't save his friend, and then when Doc sits up and he finds out that Doc is alive. I mean, to me that's such a great scene. Also. And I think maybe the most emotional scene in the movie, because you really feel the friendship between them, and of course, you love Doc. You don't want to see him die. And Michael J. Fox gives a really great performance there. Being very crushed. That his friend is dead. Anyway, so that's another scene. I always have to say,
right,
reasons why I love this movie so much. But yeah, lots of great scenes. The clock tower scene, of course, is also very good. I forgot to put that in there. Doc trying to, can't get the thing.
Yeah.
And the branch, and then he has to, and they play the music, bum, 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 as he I love the music when it kicks in.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah, I absolutely love this soundtrack. It's one of the most iconic to me musical scores. The bum, 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 and the dun, 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 da, 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 da. I don't know. It's like, man, it gets your like heart pumping, and you're like, all right, I'm ready to go. Like, it's so good.
Personally, I believe that's kind of what's missing a lot from movies nowadays.
Yeah.
Is every great movie has that great soundtrack or great original score. You know, like I say, like Back to the Future, do 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 do. Then you got like Jurassic Park, do do do. You know, whatever. Star Wars, even E.T., Ghostbusters. Like every, I guess, classic movie has that like musical number that you know it's that movie instantly.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of movies, I feel like nowadays try to put a fancy soundtrack just to be cool or to be hip. That's what I feel like. Like they'll be like, oh, let's just get a bunch of 80s like songs in here, and the movie's going to be cool because it's all 80s music.
Right. Yeah.
Like the Avengers movies, perfect Avengers song, Alan Silvestri.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the score on that one too.
Exactly, right. But as soon as you hear that song, you know instantly that's the Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I love when it kicks in right at the action scene. It just elevates the action so much when you're like, I don't know, somehow music does that. It gets emotions out of you. It makes you. It kind of sets the mood in a sense, and yeah, it does so well. Like with this, like John Williams does so well with his scores, of course, and all that. But yeah,
right.
If you know this movie, it was nominated for 4 Oscars. It won 1 Oscar, and that's for best sound effects. It was also nominated for original screenplay, and sound and original song by Huey Lewis and the News, "Power of Love," which I thought was interesting. That got nominated for best song.
Right.
I like the song. It's a nice, catchy. That and "Back in Time" I really like both songs in the movie. I don't know if you're a fan of Huey Lewis or just this.
Oh yeah.
Here.
Yeah, I love Huey Lewis.
Okay.
Being honest with you, this might be a bit of a hot take.
Yeah.
I love Power of Love, but I prefer Back in Time.
Yeah. Both are really good. I can go either way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm a fan of Huey Lewis. Yeah, I like Jacob's Ladder, Stuck on You, Heart of Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a few songs I like of his.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of actually quite enjoy him. I think this is definitely my first introduction to Huey Lewis and the News as a kid. Is Back to the Future. I didn't even know anything about their music until I heard, saw this movie. And then recently I've kind of gone through their discography, and I find out, I'm really enjoying their music, and it's nice pop rock kind of music anyways. Real catchy.
Right. Yeah.
So I love that. In my opinion, my question is like, why was this not nominated for Best Picture? I do not understand why it only got 4 Oscar nominations and only 1 win. To me, that is criminal. Like,
I can't comment too much. I guess so. My opinion about Oscars is I just think it's a bit of, especially a bit of a joke nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't really pay attention to them because
no,
it's different. It was probably different in '85, like massively different. But I feel like nowadays a movie tries to purposely have good cinematography to have that Best Picture award instead of like being a good movie. You'd be like, well, it was shot beautifully.
It looked nice, yeah.
But like the movie's terrible.
But the script is terrible.
Right, but it'll get nominated for awards, being like, oh, Best Picture, Best Cinematography, whatever. And I'm just like, so is that really why you've made this movie? I mean, what won Best Picture in '85 instead of Back to the Future?
Okay, I'll go. I wrote down what got nominated, so I was going to see if you've heard of these movies.
Okay.
Or seen them. The winner for Best Picture is a movie called Out of Africa.
What? What's that?
It's a Sidney Pollack was the director of that. It starred Meryl Streep and Robert Redford. And Meryl Streep, her and her husband go to Africa.
Okay.
And she has like a love affair with Robert Redford's character, who's like a American pilot or something like that.
I've never heard of this movie. I just Googled it here on my laptop. I've never heard of this movie ever.
Oh, I'm sure you have it. Nobody's. I doubt anybody's seen this movie now.
Wow. Okay.
I've seen it one time. It is a boring movie. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen that won Best Picture. I mean, it is a tough one to watch. There's nothing memorable about the movie at all.
Mm.
I doubt anybody went and saw this movie back in '85. It's not. Nobody remembers this movie. If you stopped 100 people off the street and said, "Have you seen Out of Africa?" They would act like you, like what? Who?
Yeah, I've heard of.
It's a terrible choice for Best Picture, I think. Out of Africa. Also nominated was a movie called Witness.
Witness.
The Harrison Ford movie where he has to live with the Amish.
Let's have a look. Never heard of that one ever.
Yeah, it's a decent movie. I enjoy it. Harrison Ford was nominated for Best Actor. Only Oscar nomination he's ever gotten in his career, which is crazy because he's a good actor. I think Harrison Ford.
Definitely, yeah.
It's an interesting movie. I think it's worth a watch. Witness.
Okay.
We got Kiss of the Spider Woman.
What is that?
It's another, I think, terrible movie.
Yeah, as you're saying these, I'm just quickly Googling them so I can see what they're. Yeah. I've never heard of this one.
No, that's another very obscure movie. William Hurt starred William Hurt, and William Hurt he won the Oscar for Best Actor for the role.
Right.
I think it's a terrible movie. I've seen it once and was like, this is terrible. Another movie called Prizzy's Honor. You never heard of it, probably.
No, I've never heard of that one ever.
Stars Jack Nicholson as a mob enforcer.
Okay, no.
He works for the mob basically, and he falls in love with this girl who ends up she's like also works for the mob or something. I don't know. It's not a it's a very forgettable movie. Nothing really.
Okay.
Again, I doubt you'll find anybody that's seen these movies or even heard of them. They're very obscure movies. The last movie is The Color Purple.
I've heard of that one.
Okay. That's a Steven Spielberg movie, of course, starring Whoopi Goldberg, her first role. And she gives a great performance. She got nominated for Best Actress for the role, which is interesting because Whoopi Goldberg known for comedy, and it's a very serious role. But it has like Oprah Winfrey's in it. She gets an Oscar nomination. Danny Glover's in it. And it's a very hard movie. It's a very hard watch movie, but very good. Great performances. Of course, Steven Spielberg's great.
Right.
Anyways, that's the best movie probably out of the bunch there. But none of those movies compare to Back to the Future.
No.
Everybody knows Back to the Future. Almost everybody's seen that movie.
I think if you were to take that list to a general person, they would probably say Back to the Future and Color Purple they've heard of.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I think looking at that, I'm like, I just don't get it. Why didn't that okay, now I'll go over this. I mean, do you know what the number one movie was for 1985?
Like box office wise? Or...
Yeah. It was Back to the Future.
I know it was like top movie for several weeks.
Yeah, that was the number one movie of that year. It made tons of money. The budget was $19 million from what I read. Opening weekend, it made $11 million.
Yeah.
In the U.S., it grossed to $212 million. Wait a minute, no, is that right? Yeah, $212 million.
Yeah.
Worldwide, $383 million. This movie did really well. People love this movie.
That's a hit.
It's a huge hit. In fact, it was almost I think it was kind of a surprise. Like, I don't think they knew it was going to be this big of a hit when it came out. And next thing they know, it comes this humongous hit. Obviously, they're like, we need more movies. We need some sequels out of this because we're making money on this thing. And huge movie. I just don't understand the Oscars. Why not only is it, I mean, you don't necessarily have to give the movie that makes the most money. You don't necessarily have to give it the best picture, but it's also a good quality movie on top of that. So if it's a good quality movie, people go see it. It should be best picture, in my opinion.
It's one of those things with the Oscars for me. Like I was saying before, I think they're kind of just a joke. Like as you said, like that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Great movie, great acting, great cinematography, great special effects, everything. You know, and like nowadays, you get like say a movie that has a great movie, great acting, all of that, but then they'll pick some kind of fancy artsy movie.
Yeah.
It's like
They always pick some movie that doesn't make any money, and it's like, why? Nobody sees that movie.
Right. And that's why I don't like listen to the Oscars and be like, oh, this is who gets nominated and this, you know, because every movie, I don't know about you, but every movie nowadays, if it has a trailer, it'll always usually say in the trailer, Academy Award winner, this person,
Always.
Oscar winner, this person.
Yeah.
And I don't care if they won an award. I'm like, just make a good movie.
Yeah.
I know obviously they have that on to, you know, buy people into that movie, being like, oh, let's check Academy Award winner.
I'm gonna check it out. Yeah.
Right. But to me, I don't. I'm just like, I'll go watch the movie if I want to go watch it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I don't know what the Oscars thinking is.
I think it's one of the worst, I don't know, tragedies. I mean, it's up there with Star Wars not winning Best Picture in 1977 over Annie Hall. I think is obviously one of the big ones. This is definitely, I think Oscars really messed up on this, because Back to the Future, maybe you say Back to the Future is too much of a sci-fi and we don't want to, or it's more of a comedy. I don't know. It's not dramatic enough. There's some good dramatic scenes in there. The performances are really good, I think, in Back to the Future. So I don't get it. I don't think there's any excuse for Oscars not nominating it, at least, if not giving it the win.
Right.
Well, I mean, because we do see Indiana Jones gets nominated, Star Wars gets nominated. So, I mean, I don't know what Back to the Future is any different than those movies. I don't know. So I don't get it, but I think it's a terrible messed up.
I think maybe one of the issues come underlying it, like under the I guess like the incest part, you know, in the movie, because obviously a lot of studios didn't want to take it on for that reason. So maybe for the Oscars, they just thought, well, we can't really acknowledge a movie that's got that, you know.
You think so?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was, especially in '85, you know.
I never thought of that. Maybe
like nowadays, if it was like Game of Thrones, for example, they probably wouldn't care because they'd be like, oh, it's Game of Thrones, it's popular.
There's a ton of incest. Yeah.
Right. But back then, obviously, that was kind of risky as such.
Yeah.
You didn't see movies being like, oh, let's see someone's mum kiss the son. You know, like you didn't see that, and obviously that's why so many studios turned it down, including Disney. You know, so I wouldn't be surprised like Oscars were kind of snubbing it for that reason. You know, like, I mean, come on, like why are they going to choose out of Africa that no one's heard of? you know?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that movie ever until this stream.
I know nobody has.
And I know I've not seen a lot of movies, but I've not heard of that movie. You know, so I don't know.
Yeah, to me, this is my opinion. If I could go back and change the Oscars in 1985, I would give Back to the Future Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay. I mean, automatically, all three of those. I just can't believe it didn't win Best Screenplay. Like I said, it got nominated, but I think I think it lost to Witness. If I looked it up earlier, still it's way better than Witness. But anyways, I would have gave Best Score to Alvin Silvestri. He didn't even get nominated. I don't know why. I would have of course, sound effects, all of those would have gone to it. I mean, I would have given Michael J. Fox a Best Actor nomination and Christopher Lloyd or Crispin Glover supporting nominations, in my opinion. I would have given them all that. I mean, I would have given them tons of Oscars, in my opinion. It's by far the best movie, I think, of that year. But anyways.
I mean, it was the #1 movie of the year. I think that speaks for itself.
Yeah. and here's the other big movies of the year. I want to see if you've heard of these.
Okay.
Coming in second was Beverly Hills Cop,
I've heard of it, but I've never seen that one.
which I haven't seen. It's an Eddie Murphy movie, I know.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Rambo: First Blood Part 2.
I've seen that.
So I like that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Good Sylvester Stallone action flick. Yeah.
I prefer the first one, but I like that one.
Yeah. Number 4 is Rocky 4.
Of course, yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, going up against Drago. Yeah, of course, Rocky's always making money, probably.
Oh, definitely. Like when I was on Rashad's stream, Rashad was saying at the time, Stallone in the 80s was like, if he wasn't doing Rocky, he was doing Rambo. Or
Yeah. Yeah, he did 2 movies. He did Rambo and a Rocky in the same year because they're both on the top 5 movies of the year.
Right.
And then number 5 is a movie called Cocoon, which I don't know if.
What was that?
Cocoon.
Cocoon?
Yeah, Cocoon. It's a Ron Howard film. It's kind of a sci-fi. It's a sci-fi film.
No, never heard that one.
Yeah, it's a decent film. It's a sci-fi Ron Howard film. Anyways, so those are the top 5 movies of that year.
Okay.
All right, I know I've been taking so much time on this movie, but I was going to end on some of my favorite quotes of the movie. And I was going to kick it to you, see if you can finish the quote.
Go for it.
All right. Here's the first one. We don't have enough road to get to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
That's it. I think it's my favorite line of the whole movie, to be honest. I love that.
Well, you don't expect it, do you?
No. Yeah, it's such a great line. We don't need. It's real, and you're like, "What are you talking about?" And then it flies off.
Right.
Like, what? Flying car now?
Right.
Obviously, I think the most quotable line is "Great Scott," because he says it, "Great Scott," and the way he says it, I absolutely love it.
Right.
All right. Here's the first part of the line. Let's see if he can finish it or say the other part of it. This is Michael J. Fox talking to Doc. Are you telling me you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it is, if you're going to build a time machine, why not do it with some style?
You got it.
I think I got near enough there, I think.
Yeah, if you're going to build a time machine in a car, why not do it with a little style?
Right.
I love that line. That's
Me too.
Because no one ever sees a DeLorean. That's not a car you see very often.
Nah.
So this is funny that him saying, "I want some style."
Right.
All right. This is it's a line. I don't know if Marty says it, but I know George says it.
Okay.
He says, "If you put your mind to it,
yeah, you can accomplish anything."
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I know that one.
You put your mind. It's a good line. He says at the end about kind of chasing your dreams, I guess, and
I think it's Marty says it to him.
I think so.
In that clothesline scene with the washing.
Okay.
I think he's like, George, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah, and then George repeats it back at the end to Marty. I like that.
Yeah, he does.
Here's this is my favorite Biff line. Make like a tree.
And get out of here.
It's make like a tree and leave, you idiot. I love how he messes that whole line up.
Right.
He starts it out correctly and then doesn't get the joke.
Nah.
Get out of here. That makes no sense. Make like a tree and leave, though. That's a good line, but he messes it up.
Yeah.
The last line I have is a line that gets repeated throughout, but I love it. And the first part of the line goes, manure.
I hate manure. Yeah.
And I love that. It keeps coming back in each movie.
I know. At always some point, he gets manure done.
He always hits manure. I hate manure.
Right.
I've never in my life seen a truck of manure. I don't know.
I don't think I have.
So I don't know how he keeps hitting manure trucks, or
the only thing I've seen is not too far from where I live. You drive past and it's kind of like an open field, but obviously they must have like horses or something. And there's a little yellow sign and it says free manure. That's all I've ever seen.
yeah. But he always hits manure. I know I have it in the comments because I wanted to get through the.
Awesome.
Soundlip says the first one is incredible, slight drop in quality for 2 to 3, which I'll agree with.
Yeah.
But they're all really good.
Yeah.
But the first one's just so good. You can't beat it. Oops.
Right, I agree. Yeah, who else have we got in here?
I keep messing up the.
Yeah, no worries. Just thanks everyone who's watching live right now after the fact. Yeah. Seems to be quite a few comments anyway, what you were showing before.
Okay. You won't always get special features on streaming services. Yeah. That's why I get the.
I don't think I've ever seen special features on streaming services.
Great Scott. This is a while ago, so he was off doing his Steely interview. But thank you for watching, Garrett.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Lego News, who always is on your channel, I know.
Lego's awesome.
This is just a random fact. My dad was actually the one who introduced me to Back to the Future because I was in the time travel, so he made me watch. Yeah, of course.
That's awesome.
Just magical for me. That's just a fun little fact. Yeah.
That's awesome, mate. Lego, like your dad introduced you to that. That's really cool.
I mean, it was my parents were fans, and that's how I watched it. My parents were watching it, and I was like,
right.
So, yeah, I definitely got introduced to a lot of movies through my parents.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Winston says Close Encounters of the Third Kind is his favorite film.
Oh, cool. Never seen that one.
Classic Steven Spielberg film.
I've heard. I'm too busy watching Amityville Karen.
This is your brother says, I'm watching Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix the other day. Crispin Glover is on one of the episodes. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, it's great to see him in it. Haven't seen him in real stuff, yeah.
I will say, let me just quickly look it up. About Crispin Glover, just if you want to show a comment or two, just while I look it up.
Briar says the taglines are surprisingly deep, yeah.
Right. Right, what is it? Okay, this was it here.
John Smith, right?
Yeah, well, hey, John. Yeah, crazy you saw when you were 5. Wow.
Yeah, I was a little bit older than me. I was 2, but I didn't see it.
That's amazing. So one thing I wanted to quickly say about Crispin Glover is in 2017 to 2021, I've got on his Wikipedia. And he was in a series on Amazon called American Gods.
Okay.
And I only saw a couple of episodes, but when episodes he was in them, and he was the villain in that series. And from what I remember, he was a fantastic villain.
Okay.
But you're right. I've never really seen him in anything here from what I'm looking at here. Yeah. Got a very bizarre filmography.
John wants to know, how would your fridge get up to 88 miles per hour? That's a good question.
That's a good question. I think they open the fridge and they close the door and that's it.
Yeah. This is something
I'm glad that they didn't do that because I think the CG would be awful now.
Do you think there'll be any more Back to the Future films?
Right, so this is actually interesting because the other week Michael J. Fox did an interview, and he did it with a magazine in America. I don't know which magazine it was. It might have been like People magazine or something. And they asked him, they said, would you like to do a Back to the Future sequel, or would you like to see it be remade? And he said that he would like to see it remade, but with a female as the protagonist.
Okay.
But I know Bob Gale and Zemeckis have said over their dead bodies it's happening.
Yeah, Zemeckis owns all the rights to the movies, or to the property, whatever.
Him and Bob Gale do, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, he says he's never going to make a sequel or a reboot. or remake.
Now,
So
I do think, though, I'm going to be completely honest, I do think, unfortunately, the day when Zemeckis and Bob Gale pop their clogs,
yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah,
I think because Universal has a distribution to it still, and it's in like the Universal theme parks in Florida, like Back to the Future merch, I really seriously think as soon as them two do pop it one day, Universal's going to be straight onto a reboot or a remake.
that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking once
Yeah.
they pass away, I don't know if there's anything stopping.
Nothing stopping them.
Okay, if nothing's stopping them, then definitely they're gonna make a sequel
Well,
or something.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, obviously the rights, as we've said, is like with Zemeckis and Gale. Now, the day when they do pass away, I don't know if that their rights go to their loved ones, like in a will,
Yeah,
or back to the studio. Like no one know. I don't know that.
yeah,
I ought to go back to the studio. But yeah, I think when that day happens, that's when we'll probably get a reboot of that movie.
that's what I'm thinking. I think if they pass away, there's a possibility in the future, but
yeah,
not while they're alive. Lego News says it's a perfect trilogy and doesn't need a sequel or a reboot. But I'll be interested to know what happened to Doc, where he went. Yeah, that's true. Where did he go after part 3? Because now he has a time travel train.
Well, so from what I've heard, and I've not read them, but Back to the Future did a set of comics like about a year or two ago. And in those comics is a bit of a story about a prequel and also a bit of a sequel to like what happened with Doc after the trade. I've never read them, so I don't know what happened, but I've heard that explains it a little bit.
Yeah, and John Smith says something. I do remember there was a cartoon series I used to watch as a kid.
Yes.
And they go different time periods. I mean, it makes for actually a really good cartoon series because there's so many possibilities of where you can do with it.
Right.
Dr. Winston wants to know, Mike, do you have another film series you really like? Batman, you said, I guess.
Yeah, film series like Star Wars. I like Star Wars. Let's see if I've got any box sets here or film series. Dark Knight Trilogy. I like those. Toy Story. Love the Toy Story film series. Usually tend to like a lot more of just like solo movies than series. But yeah, good question.
How many times have you seen it, Mike?
Oh, I honestly can't tell you. If I was to try stab a guess, maybe 50, 60 times. Maybe. I honestly couldn't tell you. I wish I kept count. Really did.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it 20 times and you've seen it more than me. So
right. I've seen it loads. I've seen it on TV. I've seen it on DVD. I've seen it on Blu-ray. I've seen it live in concert with a live orchestra playing the music. I've seen it loads of different ways, the movie.
Here's a question I actually kind of wanted to ask you about. When you think about Back to the Future, it's kind of messed up with the Freudian stuff between Marty and his mom. My dad, who I want to shout out, today's my dad's birthday. He turned 69. He was born on November 5th, 1953. So 2 years before the flux capacitor got invented.
Well, happy birthday to your dad.
Happy birthday, Dad, if you're watching at all. And my dad tells me this all the time. In fact, he told me this in a text yesterday. Because of course he grew up in a very strict Christian household and community, as I have too, and he has always told me this, and he said it was a very controversial movie in the Christian community because of the whole mother going after her son and like wanting to kiss her son, and we talked a little bit about that being a controversy. What do you think about the controversy there?
Yeah, I can definitely see for the time period. And the fact that was one of the big main reasons why I was rejected from so many film studios for that one whole arc in the movie. I can understand being controversial. I mean, nowadays it seems like it wouldn't faze anyone.
No, not at all.
But I think back then yeah, it's crazy. So, for example, I know it's not Back to the Future related, but I'm doing a watch party of this movie tomorrow, Pieces, which was part of a video nasty era back in the 70s and 80s of movies that were too violent or controversial, so they banned them completely. And that was one of them. And so yeah, I think in terms of the controversy, I can definitely see like why it would be controversial, I guess, to some people or religions and stuff. But I think it's like as the time's gone on, you can kind of like look past that, you know.
I think it's, in my opinion, it's stupid because Lorraine doesn't know that that's his son.
Right.
She just thinks it's this new kid in town, Kevin Klein or whatever, Calvin Klein.
And yeah,
You know, obviously, if she knew it was his son, it would be wrong, morally wrong. To me, it's just a funny premise or a funny idea that the mom is hitting on the son. It's obviously creepy as heck. I mean,
right.
It's a creepy situation, and of course, Marty's very uncomfortable, and that's what sells the whole scene is his uncomfortableness in it. And so, to me, there's no controversy because, of course, she doesn't know it's his son. You know, anyways. So that's my opinion. I think it's stupid. It's a comedy. It's funny.
Yeah. Again, I can see from the point of view from back then, though. You know, I don't know any movies from that time or before then when the mum was interested in the son. You know,
yeah.
So that straight away just screams being like what the hell, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas obviously it is a comedy, you know, just think as a daft comedy kind of arc. But
yeah,
imagine people back then, especially that timepiece, being like what? Like that's a shock to them, you know.
I never. Yeah.
right.
I can imagine. Church ladies going, "What? This is this is uncalled for. I'm out of here," you know, or something.
Right.
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Yeah. Pete in the chat.
Hey Pete, hope you well. Hey Josh.
Good to see you guys. Sorry, I'm not going through every single thing because I'm trying to get through this.
Yeah, no worries.
I don't usually get this many comments on my channel, but you're on here, so I'm getting tons of comments.
Well, again, thanks everyone who's watching live or after the fact.
Norin.
Hey, hope you're well.
My favorite is Marty playing the guitar, and then second, the diner encounter. Yeah.
Great scenes.
So
awesome.
I love it. I love the whole getting chased on the
skateboard.
Skateboard, and when he runs over the car and then lands on the skateboard.
Right.
That is so cool.
That's awesome. And then the famous manure scene happens.
Manure. But yeah.
No, that's awesome.
All right. I'm gonna get to the second movie. I won't go as much on. I try not to go as long on the second, third movie. Obviously, the first one's the big one to really cover. Back to the Future 2 comes out in 1989. So actually, a fairly good gap there between 85 and 89 between sequels, which I didn't realize.
Right.
The tagline for this one, I found the only good tagline I found for this one was "Getting back was only the beginning." You know, the typical sequel tagline. It's getting back. You know, the big cast change here is the Claudia Wells. I forget exactly why, but she doesn't come back for this one. I don't know if she had another project going on. But they end up getting Elizabeth Shue, who's, you know, to me a bigger actress. She was in Karate Kid before this, and she's been in other movies afterwards. I mean, so a great cast there. I think Elizabeth Shue coming in for Jennifer. Nothing to Claudia Wells; she's fine as well. But pretty much, and then Crispin Glover didn't come back for the sequel, as we kind of talked about before. That's the big thing. Like you said, I imagine if Crispin Glover was here, we would have gotten more of him playing George, you know, in the future and stuff like that, in 2015 scenes, you know. and because all the characters kind of do multiple characters in a way.
Right.
They're playing themselves, but they're playing themselves either older or younger. So it's different versions of themselves. So I imagine we would have gotten more out of Crispin, which is too bad because I would have loved to see Crispin come back. But as we said, he had issues of wanting more money. So he doesn't come back into the role. So we kind of don't really see George again for the rest of the series, which is too bad.
But again, it's because of the likeness, you know. As soon as that likeness happened in number 2, he sued. So I think in number 3 they use like a flashback kind of scene of George.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I guess we'll start off again. Like, what's your thoughts on the second movie, Mike? Overall thoughts, I guess.
So yeah, so me, it's an interesting one. So I remember when I watched the trilogy for the first time ever, I was like, "Wow, number 2 is awesome movie." And I still like the movie. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike any of the movies. But as time's gone on, I found number 2 to be my least favorite.
Now
my partner Emma, her favorite's the second movie. But for me, I prefer the third one, which we'll get into when I talk about that one.
Yeah.
So I think this is, it's a cool follow-up. I think there's elements here that works. There's elements here that don't particularly work. I feel like the opening of this movie is great. This future scene, especially for back then.
Yeah.
That was showing people probably like, what is this? You know? Right. Flying car. So the future scene's cool, like the flying cars, the flying the hoverboard, for example.
So good.
Like there's just so much cool stuff to that future scene right at the beginning that gives us like a really strong opening to that movie, being like, oh, go confront your son in Cafe 80s, and we get like little young Elijah Wood playing the Nintendo Wild Gunman game and stuff. Like you get like such a great opening scene in that movie. Then obviously it leads to Biff overhearing about the sports almanac, and then he grabs the almanac, and then obviously he's following them to get the DeLorean, which I don't know how he knows how to work the DeLorean, but he does somehow.
Right.
Like he doesn't actually ever. I don't think he ever actually hears them say, "We need to drive 88 miles an hour to get this thing to work."
You're right. Yeah.
Like, I know obviously he sees the DeLorean flying, so I'm assuming once it's flying at 88 miles an hour, that's it. It can zap. But it's never explained. So I'm just like, well, how does he know? So yeah, that opening scene I like. I think where the movie kind of loses its momentum a little bit is when they're spending the time in the house, and like Jennifer's is like other Jennifer.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
and they have like that dinner scene a little bit. Like it's a cool scene, and like the pizza that's done in like a minute or so. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's just like they focus on that, and then the rest of the movie, after the kind of like Biff's tower and stuff, the rest of the movie's then like, oh, let's go back to 55 again, and it kind of just recycles the first plot.
Yeah.
Which I quite like that. Marty was trying to avoid Marty, trying to avoid Marty.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it was a bit of rinse repeat towards the end, where you could kind of tell that movie, they have gone on record and said that movie was supposed to focus more on George again, like Marty and George again.
Yeah.
But because of George, they couldn't use him. They used him for mainly that dinner scene. That was it.
Yeah.
So the probably just had to think, oh well, how can we rewrite this? So I feel like it's a good follow up, but I just don't think it's the best written one.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of that. I think it's a great sequel because where do you take the movie after the first one? The first movie is such a complete movie in itself. It doesn't really need a sequel, except they do tease a sequel at the end because they fly away in the car. So I don't know. So it's almost like you have to have a sequel, but I mean, it's such a good story that it's I don't know how to say it, but it's such a self-contained story in a way. And so, like, what do you do with it? Well, the obvious answer is go to the future. We've gone to the past. So I think it's a great idea for a sequel. It's like, okay, now let's see what the future looks like. We've seen what the past looks like. Right. So I love the whole idea. Like you said, I love the future stuff. Always loved it as a kid. That's always been my favorite part, I think. Seeing all the cool gadgets.
Yeah.
in
See?
2015, which is now the past for us.
Right. Right.
At the time, it's like, wow, 2015, we're gonna have flying cars, and now we're
Right.
2022. We don't have flying cars, but um, yeah. So I love that whole idea. What I really like about the movie is that there's a lot of time travel. The first movie, you time travel to 55 and you travel back, I guess. In this movie, you travel to 2015. You then travel to alternate 1985.
Right.
And then you travel to 1955, and then you come back to the original 1985. So there's like 4 time travels in there. I really like that about the movie. It does a lot more than the first movie as far as traveling and stuff, and so it adds something to the movie that the first one didn't have. So to me, it was a great idea for a sequel. And the whole alternative 1985, yeah, I really love all that stuff because Biff.
Yeah.
If you hated Biff before, I mean, you really hate Biff in 1985. I mean, he's a murderer. He's corrupt. He buys off the police. He murdered George, for goodness sakes. I mean, he's the absolute worst. He's abusive. I mean, yeah, it's horrible.
Right. Right.
You know, so I love getting one over on Biff. I always love when they get one over on Biff because he's just the worst. and
Right.
So, yeah. So I overall, I really enjoy the movie. It's still very funny. It doesn't have the emotional points of the first movie, but still very good, I think. An entertaining movie in total. The movie, now the budget was 40 million, so it doubled the budget. The first movie was like 19 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So because of the success of the first one, they got a bigger budget for this one, of course. And you can see in the future scenes, they use a lot of it probably for the special effects and stuff.
Definitely.
It opened at 27 million, so it had a really great opening. Probably because of the success of the first movie, it had a really great opening to it.
Right.
Overall, it grossed in the U.S. 119 million, so it didn't gross as much as the first one. So I guess you can say it was not quite as popular as the first one, as people went to see it. Worldwide, 332 million. So still did pretty good though.
Definitely, yeah.
Still a very successful movie, I think. It got 1 Oscar nomination, and that was for visual effects, which like I said, I think it's for the futuristic scenes. It definitely has that. Yeah. Anyways, and I'm not going to go into the Oscars of this one because this definitely is not the Oscar contender. I think the first one is, but still, it's nice that I got at least 1 Oscar nomination there.
Right.
So box office wise, it came out 10th in the US. So it still was a top 10 movie. Here are the top 5 for you.
Okay.
Number 1 was Batman. The Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman.
Okay.
Huge success. I remember that movie when it came out.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Okay.
Great movie. I love Indiana Jones.
Yeah, yeah.
Number 3 is Lethal Weapon 2. Another big action franchise at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you know these movies, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Believe it or not.
I figured you did. Number 4 is Rain Man, which would win the Oscar for Best Picture that year with Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman.
I've not seen that one.
Yeah, so really good movie came out that year. And then number 5 is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which
movie.
I remember seeing that as a kid. I love that movie.
Right.
As a kid, I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, it was a huge success. Anyway, so that's what it was going up against in that year, anyways, and it went number 10, so still did good, I think.
Yeah.
You're never gonna, I guess, be better than the first movie, in my opinion, but
very rare, very rare.
But it wasn't a failure, and sometimes sequels can come disastrous, and so I still commend them that they came up with actually a good sequel to the movie, in my opinion.
Definitely.
It's still one I love watching. I still watch this one. Yeah, it's almost I have to watch all 3. If I watch one, I have to watch all 3.
Oh, I'm the same.
Yeah.
So if I watch Back to the Future, obviously I've seen them all multiple times, but if I watch Back to the Future, the first one, and then say it takes a little bit of time, like afterwards, I have to go back to watch the first one, then the second one.
Yeah.
Or I've seen the first 2, and then I'll leave it a couple of weeks or a month, and I haven't seen the third one at that point. I have to start again before I get
Really?
to the. Yeah, just because obviously I know what happens, but I like watching them all in a quick session if I'm going to do it. I feel like if I wait too long, I have to start from the beginning. So I tend to watch the first one the most because that's why.
Yeah, all three work so well together, watching them all three in a row.
Right.
Because they all connect right after each other. And it's a really good overall story as a trilogy, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so in this movie, I'd say, again, I think I'd give my favorite performance to Michael J. Fox. And the reason being, not only does he play himself like normal, he plays like himself as an older person, as like in his 50s. I guess I'm guessing he's like in his 50s and
Yeah.
So he plays an older version of himself. He plays like his son, right? I forget his name, but his who gets bullied by Biff's son or grandson or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so he plays his son. He also plays like his daughter, I think, in the movie.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Wearing drag and everything. But anyways, so I give to Michael J. Fox for playing basically 4 different characters.
Right.
Because they're all different in their own way, I think. Even if it's Martin McFly or his grandson, it looks exactly like his father, I guess.
Right.
Could be his father's twin. But yeah, I think he does a great job with all the different roles. And like I said, I love the scene. And here goes to my favorite scene. My favorite scene is when he confronts Biff in the alternative 1985.
Okay.
And finds out about the sports almanac. And then Biff tries to shoot him and he runs off into the roof.
Yeah.
And, Biff's out there and he's like, they're going to match that bullet with that gun. They couldn't match the one that shot your father or something like that, The police are going to get you or something like that. I own the police, the whole scene. And then Marty jumps off. And so Biff thinks he just committed suicide.
Right.
And he's like, oh. And he like goes over there to look over the edge. And the DeLorean hits him in the face, knocks him out. I just love that scene.
Right. Good scene.
I love anytime you beat up Biff. That's my favorite scene.
Yeah, don't blame you.
Yeah. But anyways, do you have a favorite scene of this movie?
I quite like the future scene, like when they first get there and DeLorean's coming down from the rain and he's like, right, in 5, 4, or however many seconds he's like on the clock and then it stops raining all the time. Right. I like that. I like the beginning introduction part to it all. I really like that scene. But if I was to pick out like a particular one, I quite like the tunnel scene at the end.
Okay.
When Biff's chasing him and he's trying to get out from the back of the car and with the hoverboard and he's holding on and he's like trying to squeeze through the tunnel. I quite like that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I quite like that one.
That's a good scene. Yeah, still some pretty good scenes here, like the hoverboard scene with Biff and Griff and his gang.
Right.
You can't go over water or something. I forget.
I know. Yeah, it's like I think he's like, "Hey McFly,
hey
McFly, water."
Unless you have some power. I don't know. It's
right.
Such a weird line reading, but so good. Anyways, I was gonna say, one of the things I love about the movie is each movie, I think, has a scene, or each time period, he has a scene where he walks into kind of Hill Valley and the clock tower. Am I right?
Yes.
You see it in the first movie in 1985, and then you see him go in 1955 where the clock tower's, it's not broken or whatever. So it's it's different. It's 1955, so everything looks different. The cars, the whatever. And then I think in 2015 he comes in and you see the future, right?
Basically, and that's where he stood there and the jaws comes down.
Yeah.
Right.
So isn't it kind of like? And then in the third movie, he walks into where they're just building up I think they're just building the clock tower in 1885.
Right.
So I love that each movie you see, or each time period, you see him walking into the same. I think, if am I right? He's walking kind of the same.
Yeah,
Town.
he's always seeing Hill Valley at
Yeah,
some point in a different time zone.
different
Yeah,
time. I really love that and how they do that. Anyways, I was gonna say.
right. Me too.
Uh, all right, here's some quotes for you, Mike.
Okay.
Um, here's one that Doc says: "The time traveling is just too dangerous. Better that I devote myself to study the other great mystery of the universe,
I don't know.
women."
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Don't know that one.
I didn't really know that one until I was looking it up. I guess maybe I'm wrong on that one, but that's why I looked up. But I
Okay.
just love the fact that the other great mystery in the universe is women. So true.
That's
Uh,
good.
here's a line that Marty McFly says: "I'm fine. I'm fine. It's just that you're so."
Um, I know in the first one he's like Finn. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm saying that's the line for this one, but I know it's the point. Like you're so Finn, and she's like, "Why, thanks, Marty."
yeah.
I'm not sure if it's this movie though.
In this one, he says, because she has big boobs,
Oh yes,
he's,
yes.
"You're so big." I always thought that was a funny line. Like,
That's a good one.
um,
I'm doing terrible with these quotes.
yeah. Well, I just picked these out. Uh, "What's wrong with fly chicken?
Nobody calls me chicken.
Nobody calls me chicken."
I know that one.
That's a line that's kind of throughout the second and third movie, I think.
Yeah, and the third one he says he's a yeller.
Yeah, no one calls me. Yeah, I love that. All of a sudden, if you call him chicken, it triggers him,
Right.
and he has to do it. Like, he has no choice. He has to do
Right.
whatever you threaten him with. Like, I'm gonna walk away. Chicken. Ooh, he comes back.
Right. Right. This cool guy gets irritated by chicken.
You can't be called chicken.
Right.
All right, this is a line, kind of an alternate 1985, said by Biff's gang. They say to Marty, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way."
I think does he say like I choose neither?
No,
I can't remember.
he says the easy way after they knock him out.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nah. Because I'm going to be honest, I'd say like, I've not seen the second and third movies as many times. So the
Yeah,
first one, I can quote a lot of it. The
yeah,
other two, I'm just like, not really. I can quote key ones like the chicken line and stuff like that.
yeah.
So you got me on that one, man. Well done.
Yeah, I like that one. Easy way. Then a line that I kind of like, this just a line that I always find funny, is when he knocks out Biff, uh, when he goes back to 1955.
Yeah.
Marty goes and like steals, I think, the almanac, or he steals something from him, and there's this one guy that goes, "I think he stole his wallet."
Yeah.
He keeps saying it. He says it like 5 times. It's so funny to me because he's like, "Did he steal his wallet? I think he stole his wallet." And he turns to somebody, "I think he stole his wallet." And it's like,
Right.
this guy's so obsessed with this guy stealing his wallet. And then in fact, Biff wakes up and he goes, "I think he stole your wallet." And I'm like, this guy with the wallet.
Right, right. I noticed that. Yeah, like when he goes over to Biff when he's been knocked out by George.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. That's just a little thing that I always find funny.
That is good.
Like, okay, guy, this is your big moment, I guess. He stole his
I know,
wallet.
right? Everyone remembers that though.
Okay, I'm gonna give you some future predictions, Mike, and what you think.
Okay.
In the movie, we see a poster for Jaws 19,
Right.
and then a holographic Jaws comes out
Mm.
and eats you.
Right.
Now, in 2022, I've not seen this done before.
I guess you can say. I guess you can say in like 3D movies.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess, but that's probably the closest you've got to it. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, no. No, I would. That's a lie. That's a lie. I would say the closest you can get to that, and I've seen a couple of these floating around on TikTok, is in Japan. Like Japan have like these like billboards, but they're not like the normal billboards with the paper one, you know, or whatever, the poster. They're like interactive, like 3D billboards. So, for example,
Okay.
you might have like a train station here, and you'll have a train, and what happens is the train, it looks like it sticks out like that on the billboard.
Really?
Yeah. So when it looks like people's walking by, it looks like the train's going to fall on them. But obviously, it's part of the 3D.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you, but that's the closest I think they've got to the Jaws 19, the hologram. You know.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, they're awesome though.
Yeah. So I don't know if they quite predicted that. I think it could be done. The technology might be there, but I don't think we've seen that exactly.
Yeah, I'd say that example in Japan, I think that's the closest I've seen.
Obviously, there's not been 19 Jaws. I don't know if there's been at least 3, but
3 or 4. I think.
Yeah. So definitely not 19 Jaws movies.
No.
But I was thinking, like, what if you walked by a poster of Terrifier 2, and then Art the Clown jumped out of the poster at you? What do you think of that?
Oh man, that would be pretty. That would be something.
Would that freak you out? You're walking by the Terrifier 2 poster, and all of a sudden, a holographic image jumps out. And you're like, ah.
Oh yeah, if I didn't see it coming, I'd be freaked out a little bit. Definitely. I mean, I don't know what I'd do. To be honest,
that might be a good idea. They should do that. But anyways,
that would be cool. That'd be really cool.
Of course, we got flying cars. Didn't exactly predict that. We don't have flying cars today, right?
No, I do know in America, because it was on like a Back to the Future special on TV, so I watched it one time because my dad also had it on. It was about the predictions they did in Back to the Future 2 and what's happened and what hasn't happened. There is someone in America who did kind of create a car, like there's like the actual base of this vehicle's a car, but it's got kind of like aeroplane wings on it. So that kind of flies, but obviously it's got big wings on it.
Yeah.
Sure. So I guess no, it's not happening. I guess that's the closest again you'll get to it.
Yeah. I don't think we can get flying cars. I feel like it's dangerous enough on the ground.
Right.
I don't remember how dangerous it would be flying. I don't know. I think that'd be too dangerous, but the hoverboard, we kind of have something like the hoverboard, don't we, nowadays?
We've got one that's got wheels.
Okay. But not quite like what they predicted, I would say, but
no. Still no hoverboard.
Having a sneaker that fits all sizes, basically. I think he just puts a sneaker on right and it just kind of closes in, or
yeah. That has come true.
Oh, really?
So I know years and years ago, I think it was around 2015 actually, Nike produced so many of that shoe, that same one.
Okay.
For charity, and the sales went to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Yeah, there was only like a limited number of them, but yeah, it was the same thing where you put it on, you press the button, and it self-adjusts.
Okay.
But it's never been like widely available.
I've never seen it myself, but I love the idea behind it.
Same.
I think it'd be real expensive though. That would be the problem. It wouldn't be affordable.
Definitely.
A jacket that resizes and dries itself.
I've never seen that.
Seen that?
Nah.
I love the idea. You just put it on and it fits you.
Right.
It would totally deal with, going, because I go to the store and I have to look through all the shirts to find my size.
Right.
It would be nice to just get one and just
it just fits. Right.
If it's right, and dries itself. So you go out in the rain, I guess, and then that's kind of cool. Again, it'd be very expensive. I put down instant pizza, and you said something about it. they put a little pizza in like a microwave thing, and then in like a couple seconds, it's a full pizza.
Right. I don't think we have anything that's instant pizza.
Not like
I
that.
know in the UK, I know they've got them in Japan as well, but I know in the UK, I can't remember what city it's in, but they have like a vending machine pizza where it's got like obviously it's got like a touch screen, it's got an option of pizzas. You select one, you pay it, and it's done in like 7 minutes.
Okay.
Like a lot like a vending machine as such.
Yeah.
But I know in Japan they've got vending machine pizzas in general.
Japan loves vending machines. I know that.
Right.
They got vending machines for everything.
Right. But as a household appliance, we haven't got those.
No. I always thought that would be cool as a kid. Just put it in. You got a pizza.
Right.
I have to put the pizza in the stove for 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm like, I'm hungry. I want to eat the pizza. Anyways. Zoom calling or FaceTiming.
Yeah, we have that.
So that was a good predictor, I think. They pretty much, because he talks to Needle, whatever. And that's basically FaceTime or whatever, right?
Yeah, like conference calls and stuff. Yeah.
So that was before its time, though. So
right.
That was a pretty good prediction, I thought, because we do that. We're doing that right now.
Right. Right.
So that's kind of cool. Wearing clothes inside out is the fad.
Maybe in the 70s, 60s, maybe.
Yeah, in the movie, he's like, "Oh, you got to turn your clothes inside out, Marty. That's like the big thing." I'm like, I don't think that's ever going to be a big thing, wearing your clothes inside out. Anyways, maybe it's a fashion trend, I guess.
Maybe.
Wearing two ties with a suit. Marty comes in, he's wearing two ties right next to each other.
No, I think they've done ties where there's been like maybe one color tie and then the rest of it's a different color.
Okay.
I've seen like those, but never two ties itself. No.
It looks absolutely ridiculous, and with the two ties.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, but they're trying to guess the future there.
Right.
I guess I'll end on this. When Griff and his gang get arrested, they automatically get arrested and they get like sentenced.
Right.
And Marty's like, how are they getting sentenced so quickly? And it's like, oh, ever since they outlawed lawyers, it got quicker. And I was like, so in the future we outlaw lawyers. That obviously has not happened.
No.
I don't think we could get rid of lawyers. Lawyers, they make so much money and it's a business thing.
It's crazy because a fun thing I read about not long ago is if you go on a roller coaster, they have such great cameras to get your image, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you come off the roller coaster, you can usually see in the TV like what you look like in that image. But yet the CCTV surveillance on a street is terrible.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how is that terrible? But a roller coaster camera is amazing.
True.
I've never understood that.
That's a good point.
Right.
But yeah, we're always gonna have lawyers. Blood-sucking lawyers are always gonna be a thing.
Right.
And you kind of have to have a lawyer or there's gonna be some misjustice too, because everybody needs. I don't know. This is probably in England, America. Everybody gets a lawyer. It's part of the kind of constitution here.
Right.
So.
Right. I don't know really about here.
Yeah.
I think you guys are more big on suing people than over here.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can see, but obviously you guys are crazy over in the States.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, lawyers just make so much money. I don't know. It's terrible. Anyways.
Right.
But I thought that was funny though. Outlaw lawyers. Anyways, okay. So that's all I got for Back to Future 2.
Okay.
Finish it up on Back to Future 3 here. Getting close to 3 hours here.
Yeah, no worries.
My phone would probably shut out after a while. So this came out right afterwards, 1990. So they basically shot these two back to back.
Yeah.
Compared to the first movie, they obviously probably were planning on a sequel maybe, but it did so well that they had to. And
so from what I've heard, just to quickly let you know, so from what I've heard, is when they made the first movie, the intention was always one movie. That was it. But
Yeah.
as you said, because it was so popular, the studios was like, right, well, we need more. So what happened was people who went to see the movie at the time never knew there was going to be a sequel to the first movie until the movie eventually got released on VHS. And on that VHS was the first ever time it said "to be continued."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox, he even said that when he saw that, he had to call his agent, like, am I in the second one? Like,
Right.
like I better be in the second movie. Like, he didn't know there was a sequel coming.
Right. Right.
All right. So the third movie, to me, is quite a bit different than the other two. I mean, because the other two were dealing with time periods where our characters are still alive. This one, we're going way back to 1885, right? 100 years, I guess, before the first movie. So we're looking at ancestors. Basically, we kind of meet the ancestors of of the main characters and all that. But it's a Wild West film, so it's so much. I mean, the first movie, I don't know. It's it takes mostly in 1955. Second movie, we're going into the future. This movie, it's a Wild West movie. I mean, what do you think about the direction of this one?
I love this movie. I think as I've gotten older and as I've watched this movie more, I appreciated that much more.
Yeah.
Originally, I preferred the second movie over the third one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
As I've got older, I'm just like this movie is just so different to the other two.
Yeah.
But this one feels like it's got more purpose in a way. Like, so I think why this movie's probably different is because of the whole lawsuit with Crispin Glover, the whole actresses and actor being changed in the second movie.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they didn't just rinse and repeat the first two movies again for a third movie. They went in a completely different path. It's a complete role reversal, this movie. Doc's the one making stupid decisions. Marty's the level-headed one.
Yeah.
For one. Yeah, it's like Doc realizes, all right, this is what's like being in love with someone. Whereas Marty's felt like for the entire two movies, with Jennifer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this movie is it's different. Don't get wrong, all these movies have similarities with another. There's a skateboard scene, a hoverboard scene, and there's a horseback scene.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much they've got one idea they've used in three movies.
I love that if they use them.
Right.
Right.
But I just feel like this movie is so different and just brings something different to the trilogy. And it didn't just do a rinse and repeat a third time and hope for the best, So yeah, this was my second favorite movie in the trilogy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with that. I think over time I've appreciated this movie more. Right. And watching it, again, the last time I watched it, I was like, man, this was really good. Like, I didn't realize how much I liked it.
Right.
And I love I think it works as a Western almost, in my opinion. Yeah. I think it's a good Western, and I watch a fair amount of Westerns. I don't know about you. I watch a lot of John Wayne movies and stuff of the past. And this movie works well as a Western, I think. Has some really good scenes in it.
Oh, definitely. Like, I love the bit when he's in the bar and he's doing like the Michael Jackson moonwalk. Yeah. And they're trying to shoot him and he's just avoiding the bullets. Like, that's a great scene. Yeah, and they're chasing him. They're trying to hang him. It's all a really good scene. Western kind of scene. There's shootouts and stuff like that. So I love that. Yeah, I love that Clint Eastwood. He came up with the name. Nobody knows who Eastwood is. Right. I love that Clayton Ravine is changed to like Clint Eastwood Ravine because they think Clint Eastwood died in it, so they renamed the ravine. I don't know. Like, right. I love those kind of ideas in there. Yeah, I like Clara Clayton as well, Mary Steenburgen. I think I was going to ask you that. That's the new cast member in this one. Is Mary Steenburgen is introduced as Clara Clayton. Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think about Mary Steenburgen, and what do you think about the love story that they kind of put between Doc? Yeah, so I think it works well in this movie. I think she's a welcome addition to the franchise, something like a breath of fresh air in
Yeah.
a way. Whereas I think one of the issues for me with Back to the Future Part 2, which I didn't say before, is I'm not a big fan of Elizabeth Shue in that movie.
Okay.
I think, firstly, Claudia Wells is Jennifer Parker. For me.
Okay.
I felt like Elizabeth Shue at the time maybe wasn't experienced enough to do that role because the Jennifer character is a lot of like looks like an older character,
Uh-huh.
whereas during the Karate Kid is just like she looks like she's like 13, 14-year old. She probably isn't, but that's what she kind of looks like.
Okay.
But Back to the Future, the Jennifer Parker character looks, I know they're in school, but she looks older. So I just don't think Elizabeth Shue fit the role that well.
Okay.
So for me, when it came to this third movie, and they kind of don't focus on that, and they think
No,
bring in
not at all.
Mary Steenburgen, and I think she's got great chemistry with Christopher Lloyd as well. So I really like the romance in this movie.
Yeah,
She's
I
like
love
a character.
I love that Doc gets a romance story. Like you never would think. You think Marty would,
Mm,
but and of course George kind of gets in the first movie, I guess. But yeah, I love that that Doc. He's kind of the one you least expect. Even
right,
he basically says, "I'm never gonna, me fall in love." Like that was like a crazy idea to him. Like
right,
I'm a scientist,
right.
like I'm not into emotional stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's just how they build it up throughout the movie, you know. And it's just like the fact, like in a way, he realizes that he's the one not being responsible towards the end of the movie. And he's kind of like, oh, so now he kind of sees what Marty feels like with Jennifer.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I like how it ends. I like that they skipped it forward a little bit, but I like that they destroy the DeLorean. And it's just like, right, that's it.
yeah, yeah. And I like the happy ending for Doc. I guess I would say,
Right,
like you said at the end of the movie, like I like that for
right.
Doc.
Yeah,
uh,
I think it's interesting because it's kind of like that question what we had earlier in the chat. Like, would they make more movies, or what happens to Doc's train at the end of
yeah, what
part
would happen
three?
after this?
Because to me, from everything that's happened previously, I can imagine Doc messes up somewhere and he goes back to Marty, needs his help again. You know,
Right. Yeah, yeah.
we don't know.
Um, but yeah, so I like that. It's the first time I've seen Mary Steenburgen in a movie, and now I feel like I see her all the time in movies and TV. So she's
Mm,
definitely been a very good actress over time. Uh, I think, and I always think of her in this movie when I think of Mary Steenburgen. uh,
same,
yeah,
same.
first time I seen her. Um, well, the tagline, I only saw one tagline for this movie, and that's they saved the best for last, but this time they may have gone too far. Uh,
Wow. Okay.
that was the only tagline I could find for it, but
Oh, okay.
um,
I I don't know
oh,
about that.
I know it's not
No,
as good as the first movie for sure. Um, this budget was 40 million, so same as the second movie. Had a 40 million budget. Opening weekend was 19 million, so not as successful as the second movie.
yeah,
More than the first movie. It grossed 88 million, so a bit lower than the other two. I think
yeah.
it definitely, you see the sequels don't get nearly as high as
No,
that first one. Worldwide 245 million. So um, it still finished 10th. It was a top 10 movie of the year. So
mm.
it's still a successful movie, I guess. Uh, anyways, just not nearly as successful as the other two, I would say, or especially the first one.
Nah, but I mean, all three of them has made a good amount at the box office.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, very successful trilogy, I guess you can say.
Oh,
Not
100%.
on the level of Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, but it's definitely still does very well, I would say,
Right, right.
um, in that sense. But yeah, if I'd say, I was going to say my favorite performance of the movie is Thomas Wilson as Mad Dog
Mad
Beauty
Dog.
Center.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
said it already. I was going to say that as a hot take, but you agree with me. I love his performance in this movie.
I
He's a
think
great villain.
I think it's the movie where he gets to like really shine.
Yeah,
This one, you know. Yeah,
he's totally different than the other two movies. you
Yeah.
almost recognize him
Right.
because of the costuming and the facial hair, and he's
Right.
got a different accent. I mean, it's a totally different character, and I think he
Right.
totally nailed it as a good Western villain.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree. I think it's his best role in the trilogy.
yeah,
Well, I maybe say Biff Tannen's the best, but then that's a very close second.
yeah, and I think he's very good throughout the trilogy. And I love Thomas Wilson. I've never really seen him in another movie after this. I don't know why he didn't blow up either. That's another one I don't know much about. And he's
So,
not. You don't see him in interviews either. I don't, anyways.
so I know for a long time after Back to the Future, I think he like kind of disowned the movies a little bit
Really?
because I don't know if he wanted to be like not get typecasted, you know.
Yeah, as a villain.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen him in like cameos in a film here or there. Not much though. I know
Yeah.
he. I know for a while he did stand up as well.
Yeah, I heard he's a stand-up,
Yeah, yeah.
which is funny.
Right, right. But I know in like kind of last few years he's kind of acknowledged the trilogy more. He's done like a couple of Comic Cons and
Okay.
there's a website called Cameo.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of that site or
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, I know he does like a lot of messages on there, like where he impersonates all those voices and Mad Dog and stuff as well.
Really?
People, yeah. So, yeah, I think again it's like one of those with like Crispin Glover. You know, it's like maybe they didn't want to be the same actor in multiple movies, and obviously these movies might be like, right, we want Mad Dog to show up here, you know, but just call the movie a different title or whatever.
Nobody calls me Mad Dog.
Right. Right.
Um,
I think the
yeah,
ones that you hear about is Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, and Leah Thompson.
yeah. You're
Those
right.
three.
Those are the three that I see more interviews with than anything
Right.
else.
Right.
Um, yeah, and yeah, Thomas Wilson is so good in this whole series, and I've heard he's like a super nice guy, of course, in real life. So
Right.
it's
Right.
funny that he's playing this horrible human being, and when the scene's over, he's just this very funny, nice guy. Um,
Right.
but I mean, I always think about like you got Biff in 1955. You got Biff in 2000 or in 1985. You got two versions actually. You got him as the bully, and then you got him as the car wash guy or whatever.
Right. Right.
I'm just saying you get Biff so many different ways. I love his performances in all of them. You get Biff in 2015 as an old man.
Right.
You get him playing Griff, his grandson.
Right.
You get Biff in alternative 1985, where he's this billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get Mad Dog Tanner. So I mean, he plays the same character 7 different ways. They're all
Right.
different. They're all different. It's the same character, kind of. Well, it's not the same character. It's a family member.
Right. Right.
But he plays it all different. All different characters are different. And I think it's a really good performance all throughout the trilogy.
I agree. Yeah. So I would say if you ever get a chance, a couple of years back now, they made a Back to the Future Telltale game on the PS4. And that story, the Telltale one, set before Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And in there, Biff plays like a mafia version of Biff, which is really interesting to see. I can't remember the name, but he plays a mafia version.
And what I love about this movie is you got Biff's, Buford, Mad Dog Buford Tanner is Biff's great whatever grandfather, right?
Right.
So the Tanners they've been terrible for a long time, for 100 years.
Right.
It's the worst family of all time.
Right.
They've been bullying and murdering and for 100 years. We need to get rid of the Tanners out of Hill Valley, I would say.
A bad family completely, yeah. Not a
They've
good
been
one.
nothing but terrible for that town.
Right. Yeah.
Oh,
There's not a good one in them.
that makes me laugh that you go back and he's still terrible. There's no good Tanner. You never see a good Tanner.
Right. Right.
Whole thing. Anyways, that makes me laugh. But
Oh, bad.
I say it's hard for me to say what a favorite scene is from this movie. I was trying to think of it. There's not one that jumps out at me like it does the other two movies. I
I would
probably
say for me the bar scene, like the Michael Jackson
that you
stuff.
talked about. Yeah,
For me,
like I love the scene where he goes out to they've captured Doc, and they're gonna shoot Doc unless Marty comes out. And
right.
Marty put on the stove plate, whatever you call it.
Yes, chest protector.
The chest protector. And again, I love every time they beat up Biff. That's my favorite scene. But he shoots him and he falls over and he's like, oh, like I got him. Like, oh, and he's like, he's like showboating as he's walking towards him. And then he stands up and he's like, what the? And then he punches him, I think, and he's like, right. I think he punches him and he like hurts his hand.
Yeah.
And then he reveals that he has this stove.
Yeah.
Hits him with it. And then he falls into some manure at some point.
It's always manure.
It's always manure.
The same gag. Yeah.
I love the whole scene. And the fact that he stole the scene from a Clint Eastwood movie that he saw in the second movie. It's such a good callback to Back to Future 2.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Yeah. But yeah, I love all of that. And then the train scene at the end is also very good, I think.
Yeah, a cool concept.
Yeah. I will say the only thing that bothers me about the whole scene is Clara is like hanging upside down. She's going to fall to her death or whatever.
Right.
And so Doc's got to go back and save her. And there's explosions going on. And so Marty has to get the hoverboard. He has to let go of the hoverboard. The hoverboard has to the timing has to be so perfect for the hoverboard to go in. Doc has to catch it. And then he has to catch Clara.
Right.
How do you catch something like a human being and keep your balance? I don't think that could be possible, in other words.
And I think it's just the fact of like when she's hanging on upside down, it's like the tiniest of thread that's keeping it.
Yeah.
Like that thread would snap off in a second. She'd be getting death right about now.
Like the timing's so perfect. She falls right when he gets it. And he's right in the position to catch her.
Right.
I'm thinking he's never been on a hoverboard in his life. There's no way he would not just fall over.
Right. Right.
But
I think it's there to kind of just create the tension scene like the first movie, It doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I still love it, but it makes me laugh when I see that scene. I'm like, there's no way Doc is
Nah.
And it's in his 60s or something. There's no way he's catching a woman, and I don't know. But
no way.
I couldn't do that now in my 30s. But yeah. And I never skateboard either, so I wouldn't have no idea what I'm doing. But anyways.
Well, let me put it this way. I know how to basic skateboard.
Okay.
I learned because I saw Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, so I learned to skateboard. It took me a very good couple of days to get my balance on a skateboard and learn to push myself.
Yeah.
I fell off quite a lot of times, so it's not a one time you step on, you know how to do it.
Yeah, no, not at all.
No, not at all.
No, but I mean, it makes for a good scene,
Yeah.
He saves Clara. He's going off. They're going to be together. Marty travels back to his original time like he's supposed to. I will say, and I'll tell you this is also what I love about the third movie. Earlier in the movie, they're at the party. They're like having this big party or whatever.
Oh yes, in the town square.
The shindig or whatever. And and Marty and Doc, they get a old timey picture of them.
Right.
And at the very end of the movie, when of course the DeLorean, like I said, gets destroyed by a train, and then all of a sudden they hear another train, and then here comes Doc's time travel train.
Right.
And he has 2 kids and all this, and he's married and they're happy. And the scene where he gives him, he said, I got a gift for you, and he gives him the gift, and he reveals it, and it's the old timey picture of him and Doc. Like I love that scene, and it kind of gets me choked up a little bit because it's such a, and then they have to say goodbye to each other. I get a little choked up because it's like, oh, these two kind of best friends almost saying goodbye to each other, and
Right.
I love that he gets that picture of them two together. That's such a great sentiment, that I'm thinking, oh man, yeah, like I would love to have that picture, keep it of my
Right.
best friend, I don't know. So I love that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great scene. I think one of the biggest questions on like everyone's mind who likes that trilogy is like, when did they talk again? Like, does Doc phone Marty weekly, checking how he is? Do they just talk again after that? That's final goodbye. They live their own separate lives. Like what?
Because it seems like a final goodbye, doesn't it?
It kind of seems as if he's like, bye. Thanks for your help all this time, but see ya.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's an emotional scene of like, yeah, two friends saying goodbye. I don't know. That's the way I took it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And so I really like that because by the time you get the third movie, you just love those two characters so much,
Right.
and their friendship together and all the things they've been through.
Yeah.
And so that's such a good ending to that movie and franchise, I think, is these two people saying goodbye, kind of, and Marty's going to live his life, I guess. No more time travel.
Yeah. It's kind of like they ended on a high note.
Yes.
And
yes.
like, here's a conclusion.
Yeah.
Doc's gone on his train with his love interest in kids. Marty's with his girlfriend now. That's all you kind of know.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, it's a good way to end the franchise. Yeah. I feel happy about everything that's happening.
Right.
All the people.
Plus, it kind of gives you an answer that in the future, Marty's going to have kids with Jennifer. Like in part 2 when he has kids, but obviously it might turn out a bit different than they did.
Hopefully.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good conclusion, I think. You need a good conclusion to a epic trilogy.
Yeah.
I think that's as good as me.
Yeah, I agree. At least they didn't leave it open to be like, oh, let's make another trilogy afterwards,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. I like how it just ended, and that's it.
Oh, I just thinking another iconic movie in the second movie I didn't mention is I love the scene in the second movie where they're in an alternate 1985, but Marty's just now realizing it, and then Doc kind of gets him, and then he has this big chalkboard, and he has to explain it like that.
Oh yes, and
like,
yeah.
Here's this. Now this is where we were at, and this is like that's a good scene, like of time travel speaking, and
right.
I think
explain it to the audience as well.
Yeah, like here's where we were. Here's where we. I don't know, kind of how time travel. Anyways,
I think that's like a great scene to give exposition.
Yeah.
To and not just like them two dialogue in it, because it wouldn't have the same effect. I think with the graph, everyone's like, "Oh, right, so the graph was going to go like this or whatever, and it's now like gone askew like that." Right, we need to go to this point here to get that fixed to get to this point.
Yeah, it totally makes sense watching it. Like, oh, okay, I get where.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a good scene, but there's also a funny quote. I just now remember there's a funny quote from the second movie where I didn't write down because it's too long, but he talks about Jennifer. Jennifer gets the police take Jennifer from 1985, thinking that she's Jennifer from 2015 because they have the same DNA or something. I don't know.
Right.
And so she takes her to the McFly house, and she's passed out. And then Doc's like, I mean, if she sees her older self, Jennifer, either two things will happen. She'll just pass out, or they'll pass out, or basically the whole world will be destroyed. And he goes through this whole, like, the whole universe will collapse because of he goes through all this thing. And he says, or it might just be our galaxy. And Marty's like, oh, that's a relief. Like either the universe is going to be destroyed, or it just might be locally our own galaxy. And it's like, oh,
it's just the whole thing with the continuum, isn't it?
Both ways, it's going to kill all of us.
Right.
It's a really serious deal, but it's funny the way Doc explains it. I'm like, oh man, this is serious. Like the whole galaxy is going to. I forget how it's all these scientific mumbo jumbo, but
just like it's like they do that one, the first one though.
Oh really? Yeah.
Heavy, and Doc's like, Heavy? Is there something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Is there something with the gravitational pull? Yeah. In fact, I was gonna say one of my favorite things about the third movie is in the first movie, there's a scene where Doc says "Great Scott," and Marty says, that's heavy. You get in the third movie, there's a scene where Doc says that's heavy, and Marty says "Great Scott."
Right.
And I never noticed that till I saw it recently. I was like, oh, they switched the lines. Like, that's so fun.
Again, just role reversal movie,
Yeah, total role reversal.
Because you don't expect Marty to ever say "Great Scott."
No, he never says "Great Scott," and he says "Great Scott." And then Doc uses the heavy line that he uses.
Right.
Heavy. I thought that was pretty fun. Idea.
Great movie.
Great callbacks. I love callbacks to the other movies.
Right. And I think that's what this does so well. The call back to it all,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that a lot. Like in the first movie, I think it's called Twin Pine Mall or something like that. I forget.
It's called Lone Pine and Twin Pines, yeah.
And then Marty runs over one of the pine trees in the past. So then when you come back to 1985, it's like pine tree, or I don't know. It's like,
I think it's Lone Pine. I think the second time. It's for Twin Pine first time, yeah.
So you don't catch that until you watch it a couple times, and I like, oh, wait a minute, they changed the name because he ran over the pine tree.
There's so much stuff, like for example, in the opening scene of the first movie, when Marty's going into Doc's house and you just see all the clocks along with the wall. There's one clock where it's like a figure of someone hanging on the clock.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a foreshadow of later on in the movie when Doc's hanging on the clock when he's about to fall off.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like Doc's shirt in number 2 when he goes to the future, his yellow shirt's all just trains.
So really?
So it's kind of like a nod to it's going to lead into a third movie. It's going to be a train.
Yeah.
So it's just stuff like that, it's so good.
I love. I was gonna get some quotes here from this movie. I just love how stupid Mad Dog Buford Tanner is. I say stupid, or he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. Of course, I suppose it's because it's Marty's using like terminology he doesn't understand. But there's some funny scenes where like he says, "I forfeit." And he's like, looks at it. He always has to look at his gang. Like, what does that mean? Forfeit.
Right.
He's like, means that he gives up. You don't, without fighting. It's like, what? Without shooting? You can't do that. But I love how he always has to look to his gang for like when he's confused. I love one scene. He says he calls him a jerk. He says something. He says he calls, I think, Buford a jerk. And I guess jerk is maybe a term that wasn't used back then. Because he looks to his gang like, what does jerk mean? And his gang goes, I don't know. None of them know what jerk means. I thought that's funny. It's like, you jerk. What? Like, we don't get that insult.
Buford doesn't have a clue in that movie.
He has no clue. No. I love there's a scene where he's like, he's, tomorrow we're, he's setting up this, showdown or whatever. Like, we're going to, come back here, tomorrow. We're going to, at 8:00, I can't remember, or whatever, 9:00.
Yeah.
Because I like to shoot before I eat breakfast or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so he's like, we're going to meet at this time. And then one of his gang members like, well, tomorrow we're going to rob this train station or something like that.
Right.
He's like, oh, okay. Oh, how about Monday? Are we doing anything Monday? No, we can kill him Monday. Okay, make it Monday. It's funny that his gang has like this calendar of events of crime that's going to be doing. Like so trying to figure out what day to kill him because we can't do it this day. We got this other crime going.
Right. Yeah, it gets up.
I love all that. Okay, here's a quote that Doc says to Marty in 1885.
Okay.
He sees him and he's dressed in this ridiculous, this pink outfit. I think this like pink boot outfit, whatever. I don't know. It's pink outfit.
Yeah.
And Doc says to him,
the reason I'm looking away, hold on.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Nobody wears that back in 1985.
Right.
But Doc says to Marty, "What idiot dressed you in that outfit?"
Yeah. Oh. Did he say I dressed myself?
He says, "You did," because Doc is the one. Doc from the other Doc dressed him, so he says, "You're the idiot that dressed me."
Yeah. Right. Right.
So it's kind of a funny quote. He's like, "What idiot dressed you?" Not knowing it was another version of himself. There.
Yeah, because that future Doc says to him, if you're going to travel back, you need to have some clothes that fit in.
Yeah,
I forgot.
so
Yeah, I thought it was him that said that.
That's funny. He's like, "You did."
Right.
It's probably maybe my favorite quote in the movie. Doc says this to a train engineer. This is a hold, or no, the train engineer. Sorry, the train engineer says this to Doc. Is this a holdup? Doc says, "It's a science experiment." Because he's got the engineer at gunpoint.
Yes.
Because they're going to use the train to travel back. And so the guy says, "Is this a holdup?" And Doc looks at Marty and he looks back at him and says, "It's a science experiment." like that's the best he could explain it.
I remember that scene now.
That's a great line, I thought.
The whole yellow. Nobody calls me yellow.
Yellow. Clint Eastwood's gonna be the biggest yellow belly in the West.
Right.
There's this line that Doc says to Marty twice in the movie, and first Doc says to him in 1985, and then he travels to 1885, and Doc says the same line to him, and it's absolutely hilarious. And he says to him, "You're just not thinking fourth dimensionally." And Marty says, "Yeah, I have a real problem with that."
Wow, okay, I didn't notice that.
It's a funny line because he says it to him in 1985. He's I don't know, he's explaining time travel to Marty or something. I can't remember exactly, but Marty's like, I forget what Marty says, but Doc says, "You're just not thinking fourth dimensionally," which I don't know what that means. Only Doc thinks fourth dimensionally. I don't know even what that means. But then he goes back to 1885. He's talking to Doc, and Doc says the exact same line to him. "You're just not thinking fourth dimensionally, Marty." And Marty's like, "Yeah, like you said that to me before." He's like, "Yeah, I have a real problem with that." He's very sarcastic, of course. Like Doc, nobody thinks fourth dimensionally. Nobody knows what that means. Only you.
Doc's, I wouldn't even know what goes on in his mind, you know?
Yeah.
How fast that's going.
Exactly.
Right.
Anyways, I thought that was funny. That was a funny callback to earlier in the movie, I thought.
Definitely.
One line that makes me laugh so hard. They're in Doc takes that drink and it knocks him out.
Right.
The one drink of whiskey or whatever it is. And so then Tanner and his gang are outside, and they're calling them out.
Wake them up.
And and Marty says to the bartender, he says, "Do you have a back door?" And the bartender says, "Yeah, it's in the back." And that line makes me laugh so hard. I was like, I don't know why, but it's just so funny how he says it,
Because it's so obvious. The back door.
Where else would the back door be but in the back?
Right.
So it's like, "Oh, thanks a lot, bartender."
Right.
Back door?
Right.
Yeah, it's in the back. Like, if it wasn't in the back, it wouldn't be the back door. Anyways, but yeah.
Right.
Kind of. So, anyways, yeah. So I was gonna say, still did very well. Number 10 in the box office.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 in the box office that year was Ghost.
Okay.
Movie with Demi Moore and Swayze. What's his name? And Whoopi Goldberg.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a very successful movie. Number 2 was Pretty Woman, which is
okay.
I don't care for that movie at all, personally.
Yeah, I've seen bits of it, but never entirely.
Very popular. Number 3 is Home Alone, which
Oh wow, okay.
which was huge. I remember watching that one. That was a good movie. Number 4 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I love that movie.
I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, I have the Blu-ray. In fact, I watched that when I was a kid. I loved it, but
I know it was popular.
yeah, very popular. Number 5 was The Hunt for Red October, which was a submarine Russian movie. I haven't seen, but I know it was.
I haven't seen.
Okay, so I'm going to end with this, Mike.
Okay.
So Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, they've passed away.
Right.
I was going to say, what if Disney like bought the rights to Back to the Future and just started making sequels to it? I was thinking I can see, because Disney owns everything. I can see Disney like buying, but you said Universal. I guess maybe they would have the rights. So
right.
So maybe Universal is like, okay, we're gonna remake Back to the Future. Who would you cast in Back to the Future?
See, I don't know, because I personally think for me, like, I haven't got an actor who I can be like, right, they would be a perfect Marty McFly.
Yeah.
I think just to be honest, I think sometimes there's some film roles that shouldn't be replaced.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they could make someone not called Marty McFly. Maybe a McFly of sorts, but maybe, I don't know, a different name. You know, like a John McFly.
Great grandson or something. I don't know.
Right. So the idea that I had, if they were ever to make like a 4th movie, would be, did you ever see the deep fake of Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr.?
Yes.
Right. So that looked so realistic. It looked so good how they did it. So I think if they ever did a remake or a sequel, I'll say a sequel, so say, I think Tom Holland could be a cool choice, because I think he's young enough and he sort of has the same hairstyle and stuff as Marty McFly. He could always be the son in the future of Marty McFly, or he could be the grandson. And I think Christopher Lloyd could still be Doc.
Yeah.
I think Christopher Lloyd has always said he would be up for doing another movie.
Because he's up in his age probably now.
I think he still said he would do it, but it would have to be with Michael J. Fox. That's what he said. If he'd ever do one again, it'd be with him only. But I think a way that they could do it is Tom Holland plays a grandson. Christopher Lloyd is still Doc Brown, but Tom Holland hasn't got the experience of time travel, whereas Marty McFly has. So they could update the DeLorean a little bit, maybe still have the old style DeLorean, but Doc's invented like a monitor inside the DeLorean, like a little touch, like a computer screen, and like Marty's on like video calls with them as the time traveler.
Yeah.
So he's still there, but in the same time, he can maybe give some tips to his grandson or his son to be like, look, this is how you work the DeLorean if Doc's gone AWOL or on some journey, or he's gone somewhere and you ever need to use it, or this is what you need to do. So Michael J. Fox would still be in the movie, but obviously they just have to acknowledge, look, he's got Parkinson's, he can't time travel anymore. He's not the young whippet like he used to be, you know?
Yeah.
They could make a joke on that, you know? Which is not an ill taste joke, just a joke in general about that, you know? So I would think that could work.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And bring in a different version of Biff again.
Yeah.
Like an older Biff, like they could have it where Doc's aged now. Doc's getting older, but something's maybe affected him in the future on a way he would die. So to prevent that, he needs help from Marty again. Mm-hmm. And that's when it comes to Marty. Marty's like, well, Doc, I've got a disease. You know, I can't help you anymore.
Yeah.
And his grandson learns about that and maybe takes the reins from Marty, you know? So it's a direct kind of sequel, but acknowledges that Marty McFly can't time travel anymore. He can't hop in a DeLorean and drive again. So I would like to see a sequel if they ever did that route. That would be my perception on it, really. if they would ever do it in the future and recast it in years and years' time, I think maybe a female protagonist could be interesting.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
I mean, maybe like a female protagonist with like a doc, like Christopher Lloyd or something. That could be cool. I wouldn't say no, because even if I think that's probably not going to be a great movie, I'd still go watch it, you know. But I don't know. I really don't know. Who would you cast?
All right, here's my cast I've made up.
Okay.
I have Tom Holland as Marty.
Okay.
Robert Downey Jr. as Doc.
All right. Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld as Lorraine.
That's a good choice.
I know you know her from yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's really good, and Lorraine's good looking. I think Steinfeld's pretty good looking. So
I agree.
I would have Joe Carey from Stranger Things as George.
That's interesting. I probably wouldn't personally, but that's fun.
Because I'm trying to think of people in the right age range, and this is what I came up with.
Right. Okay. No. Cool. Yeah. Go on.
George is a hard one because he has to be kind of weird and,
Mm.
and funny and all these things, and has to be in his 20s. Probably. I mean, he has to be a teenager and also has to. But anyways, so I'm trying to think of an actor that's young enough that could play those roles like a teenager.
Okay. Yeah.
Then I got this guy from Stranger Things. I don't know how you pronounce his name. It's Dacre Montgomery, and he plays Billy in Stranger Things.
Is Biff?
I have him as Biff, even though that's typecasting because I know he's a bad guy, bully in Stranger Things, but I think he would be he could play a bully very well, and he's at the age range.
He does play a good bully, yeah.
That's a hard one because I have to think of someone who's big and intimidating, and I can't think of a lot of people in that age range that's big and intimidating, I guess, as Thomas Wilson was. But anyways.
But the thing is, if they were to make Back to the Future again, they can always have actors who's older but just look young.
Right.
Like, I think maybe a good George McFly could be like a Daniel Radcliffe.
Okay.
Because like he's wacky. He can do wacky roles.
Yeah, he's in that age range. He would work.
Yeah, I think he could, yeah. I think I mean, obviously you've seen Weird Al. You've seen what kind of wacky stuff he does in that.
Yeah.
I think he could be a cool George.
Yeah, he'd be in there. I thought about him as one of the roles. Yeah, he'd be a good one.
Yeah.
See, Norrin says Joe Carey can nail it, so he agrees with me. But he's a big fan of Carey.
Like Joe Carey, I think he's a good actor. Like I like him in Spree as well. That's like a horror film of him.
Okay.
But he does a good job in that.
Then as Jennifer, I put down Peyton List, who's from Cobra Kai, plays Tori.
Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, I think she's hot, so I'm
right. And I feel like I put somebody from Cobra Kai in here because I like that show. So.
See, I don't know about Peyton List.
Okay.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think like she could do the role good. She's proven her acting chops in Cobra Kai. You know. I think Jennifer seems like more of like a model, pretty girl. At least in the original movie, that's the kind of vibe I get from her. Like she's kind of like could easily be in a model shoot or kind of like a pretty popular girl. You know. I don't know who though. I really don't know.
Well, that was I quickly put that list together this morning.
It's a list though. I like it.
That was the best I can come up with, but
hey, I like that.
It's kind of hard thinking of people in the right age range that would fit in, but
I wish you told me beforehand. I would have tried to prep a list.
I know. It was I just kind of came up with that idea today.
There.
Anyway, so obviously we've gone on for 3.5 hours. I didn't realize it'd go on that long, but
yeah.
I don't know if nobody's watching this, I think, anymore, but thank you to everybody that sorry I didn't get to the comments. There's just so much information I was trying to get through in this live stream. I wasn't expecting so many comments. So
Yeah. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in.
but thank everybody who tuned in, asked questions, made comments. And just, I'm going to end, I guess, here and just say thank you so much to Mike for coming on and talking with me. I really enjoyed talking to Mike anytime, but talking about Back to the Future, of course, is, is really fun. I'm glad I got to get some of my viewpoints out there of my love for the movie as well. As Mike's so smart, he knows a lot. So thank you a lot, Mike.
No, dude, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast talking about my favorite franchise ever. I've said to you so many times that I could talk about this whole day.
Yeah, right.
I feel like you need a separate stream for all movies.
I realize that now. I should have done a separate one for.
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't mind though, because I think could be quite cool is making like a quiz as well about Back to the Future, like a full stream on like who we would cast as the cast members and stuff, and what plot we would use and stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff. Yeah, but yeah, just thanks, man, for having me, and thanks everyone who's like watched live or after the fact if you decide to watch this back.
Norn says, "Great stream. Thank you, Norn."
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
So, from me and Mike, thank you, everybody, and hope everybody has a good day. And bye.
See you, everyone.